Mauler's review of Spider-Man Brand New Day is the worst review I have seen of a movie since Alex Meyer's Obsession review, but at least that one was short. It's hard to make a more baffling, wrong thing if you tried, but I doubt Mauler will get the treatment Myers got because people just kind of expect Mauler to make these rambling, incoherent reviews anyway. It's his brand at this point, which is why he almost exclusively talks about Disney films and nothing else. I don't even think he mentioned Obsession. At least Alex Myers tried reaching outside of his wheelhouse once in a while. Mauler seems comfortable just talking about Disney films for the rest of his career. But that facade of being this articulate, sophisticated critic falls apart in his Spider-Man review. Despite having a bootleg version of the film with subtitles attached that he could cross-reference, he constantly misunderstands the film to the point where he outright lies about it to make it sound dumber than it really is. But if you've watched the film, you can tell. I wasn't even aware he made a review, by the way, until fans told me he has a jab at me early on in the vid. Unnecessarily at that. This isn't unusual. Mauler and EFAP have made about 10 vids about me over the past, 2 years. So I decided to watch it on stream. I mean, it's only fair. I decided to use the format Mauler popularized, just watching it blind and pausing whenever I had a feeling. Now, I know Mauler and company hate when you take you out of context, so despite how often he repeats himself and babbles and repeats himself, I'm gonna let all of his words play out. I don't want to be accused of cutting anything out of what he said. So be warned, there's spoilers immediately and a lot of foul language. I wouldn't want to censor him by changing anything he said at all, right?
Spider-Man.
Let's adjust. Let's see what you say. Now, mind you, going in blind, I have not seen this video. I know I mentioned in a bad way at least once. Probably will laugh when I see it because I think it's really funny. But let's see Mauler's perspective.
Brand New Day is a story about Jean Grey, a telepath trying to find her kid.
Spoilers, Mauler! Not everyone's seen the movie. By the way, if you haven't seen Brand New Day, it's Mauler. You should know that going in, he's going to spoil everything. So, that's your spoiler warning. Unfortunately, if you haven't gotten there, I've spoiled the whole thing. There you go.
Kidnapped sister. The DODC, or Department of Damage Control, captured her sister, and so Jean's plan is simple. She will mind control civilians, forcing them to drive tanks into DODC correctional facilities, killing countless innocents. She will set off explosives within the tank to cause extreme damage to the building, killing countless more innocents and releasing criminals. She will use her mind control during the panic to reach a particular member of the DODC that will eventually facilitate the release of Scorpion. She will then mind control Scorpion and have him attack a DODC data center in the hope that she can ultimately discover the location of her sister. She could have, instead, mind controlled the director of the DODC by gradually jumping through the facility, gain his memory of what happened to her sister while calling up any information she wants with his authority without endangering herself or anyone else whatsoever, especially when knowing they have zero defense or expectation for this. Hell, she could have done it while he was sleeping at home, and she could have dealt with him with none the wiser upon discovering the truth. Unfortunately, these preschool level thoughts would end the movie immediately, so
Okay, so a couple things right here. So first off, and again, Mauler, you're one of those critics who has such an attention for detail. How do you know who dies? Yeah, bomb goes off, truck hits a building, it's all well and good, but unless we have a body count, we can't assume anyone died. I'm not saying they didn't. They probably did. But property damage is not the same thing as a fatality, is it? First off, that's one big issue right there. But secondly, let's take a look right here. Why can't Jean Grey just body hop into the director's brain, right? Well, for one, she just can't reach him. Halfway through the film, she does try to break into his office and get into his head, but she just can't reach him at that point. It's a lot of guards. She's got the right person to get in, For another, they're never off guard. And secondly, I don't think you can argue that that's a simple solution for her to do if she's not even sure if the information lies with the director. That's the problem. She doesn't know where any of that happened. Also, and this is actually very important, after all this, we learned that she did hack multiple computers that Yelena pointed out, and she hacked them with the intention of looking for a code called VMAX. She went for the least resistance possible first. Didn't find what she was looking for, because VMAX isn't a code name for anything. It's the last thing her sister saw before dying, and so went to more drastic measures to find answers. The problem is that Mauler is using his knowledge of the end of the film to dictate actions taken before the film starts. We know that she did try hacking into computers. There you go. Plus, this is very important. This is a very important thing. How does she even know the information is with the director? Do you think the President of the United States knows every little tiny thing his technicians do? Probably not. So this information is delegated through computer systems first, so she went to those resources first. She's hacking a data center to access the files. She's not going to waste her time going to the director, who might not know the specific information himself anyway, as far as she knows, when she can hack the system and look for information that way. The problem is, the data point she's looking for isn't in the computer systems. She's looking for the word VMAX, which means nothing. It's nonsense, ultimately. It's just a little vent label that's peeled off slightly. So even right there, your logic doesn't really add anything. You're not looking at it correctly. That's the problem. But most importantly of all, and this is the key thing here, if the movie ended that quickly, you wouldn't have an action set piece to watch. That's the real answer. There is explanation and context to explain why these are the measures she's taking, but that's all secondary to the fact that you get to see a big tank get blown up and have a building blow up. And Spider-Man has to go in and save people. It's a mystery. The problem is also that Mauler's critiques often function on the logic that characters must act logically. No one can just be a terrorist who blows buildings up. They have to be the most straightforward, not want to cause any harm. The thing with Jean Grey is that she does want to cause harm. She's fucking pissed. So she does want to hurt people. People are like, oh, well, she's sympathetic. Oh, well, she's the villain. I'm saying she's an angry teenager with powers that dehumanize the world, and she wants to fuck some shit up. So she's not going to be nice about it. That's the reality of it. Hey, listen. Someone's an asshole. You're going to fuck some shit up. If you're a pissed off teenager and you're angry at the government and you have the power to enact your rage against them, that's what happens. Also, how do we define innocent civilians? That's question 2. Is the grandmother driving a tank innocent? Probably. Are most people who are hurt innocent? I'd say probably too, to some extent. It's like the question of if you're a janitor on the Death Star when Luke Skywalker blows it up, you know? It's that old joke. I think it's a good thing, actually, to write characters who are not always the most logical, because it makes the movie more interesting. If the characters in Fargo acted intelligently and wisely, the movie would be over in 5 seconds because it would never get started. The concept of Fargo is ridiculous, because the characters are morons who think they're intelligent. Jean is a scared kid who, despite her dehumanization perspective of humanity, that she is so detached from humanity because she can hop in people's brains and control them, she's not exactly going to do the most logical thing. In fact, her entire direction changes with her motivation to just hone in on Peter for a while, to keep him from interfering with her plan. Her plan ultimately is, use the Hulk to break into damage control, break into damage control facility, and then jump into and breed the director's brain. So again, the problem is all of that's pretty basic, I think. Let's let some super chats play real quick, because a bunch of come in. A bunch have come in, damn.
At Bobaracus 9583 super chatted $2.94. I forgot how much his voice sounds like text to speech.
Yeah, right? Very dry. Very, very dry.
At Kanasha 37 super chatted $5. I'm not kidding, but does he just repeat the same scenes over and over again?
Yes. It's worse than his long videos. His length is not because he has
At
much to
Lupin the
say.
Maelstrom super chatted $2. How do people like this? Mauler's so joyless.
Yeah, that's why people think he's intelligent, because he's joyless. The less you enjoy things,
At
the more smart you
Revenovan
sound.
300 super chatted
Apparently.
$4.99. A traumatized and angry teenager desperately wanting to find her sister doesn't make the most rational or logical decisions?
I know, I'm shocked.
What a crazy concept.
Next thing, exactly. I'm shocked too. A teenager makes
At Nick
dumb
Wolf
choices.
3885 super chatted $5. Mauler would have liked the movie more if 90s Vegeta were there to hold his hand.
Basically,
Too
yeah.
bad it's Sunday, those buildings would have been filled tomorrow.
There you go.
At DB-Do5L super chatted $5. Are we forgetting that damage control has security that scans you down to the mutation?
Oh, I didn't even get to that part yet. That's what she says. I have the Hulk to break in. Yeah, exactly.
At user_225_CCC super chatted $1.99. Mauler x ant enemies to lovers hatefic fanfic.
There you go. I don't hate Mauler. I'm just mostly, I think it's really funny, actually.
At Zephyrhash2 super chatted $10. I always found a little weird how humans seem to be afraid of mutants in 2000's X-Men when they don't really do much to them. Jean Grey makes the fear warranted and Sentinels, Asylums, etc. make sense.
That's the thing I think is really effective about this movie. It shows why they would be afraid.
At
but also why they're
O0Ojolono
victims, the
00
mutants.
super chatted $2. I heard the writers of BND are co-writing Doomsday.
Hopefully, because the writing in Brand New Day was much better than a lot of the other MCU projects. But yeah, no, it's all well and good. So let me pause supers again real quick. So yeah, the problem here is that, well, what's really a critique after a while, you know? Like, what are we trying to do here? You know? So the big issue here is that Mauler is doing his thing where he tries to solve the movie. If you solve the movie, you're smarter than it. You cracked the code. You figured it out, boss. But the problem is that's really stupid, quite frankly. It's a dumb idea. It's very boring to solve the movie like that. Because what you only end up doing is you pretty much just end up just writing a different script. Usually a lot less tension in the script as well. But I digress.
We have to make her a titanically retarded, aggressively psychotic shitmole. Anyway, Spider-Man.
There we go. Hell yeah. Got my mention only a minute and a half in. There we go. Mauler, I am glad to be the parasite that itches under your skin so badly you gotta keep going. Gotta keep reaching to scratch. By the way, I want to point out here, I was never going to cover this video, seriously, until I heard I was in it. That's the only reason I even wanted to watch it. Because the prospect of watching Mauler is the same as gargling nails. Without any milk. I feel like having that that like meme from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood come up, like, oh, there we go. Anyway, and by the way, that clip is from a video they covered 2 years ago on EFAP, which is very funny to me that I'm still occupying that little piece of brain matter in your brain, rent-free. Shame. Love it. Real estate, by the way, in that brain, very empty. Not much in there. Surprisingly less occupation in your brain than I originally thought there would be. You know, what are you gonna do?
Attempts to stop her. In response, Jean mind controls MJ and tricks Peter into thinking they can be together again, only to reveal the truth and threaten to kill MJ if he gets in the way. All of that instead of simply telling Spider-Man, the bona fide hero of New York, that she is trying to find her kidnapped sister, which...
Because he's working with damage control. How's that hard to understand? That's actually a really stupid thing to say. Peter, at that point, has met with damage control, is actively seeing her as a threat, and is actively opposing her efforts forward. So, yeah, she's going to interpret that as him working for damage control, and she tries to essentially emotionally blackmail him into not following her. So he's out of the way because she perceives him as a threat. Now, she does not know that Peter would help her if she told him. However, that's still a stupid thing to say as a critique, because it actually goes in the face of what we know about the characters there. Again, this is the problem with someone like this trying to critique movies. He's trying to outsmart the film rather than engage with the film. And as a result, he sounds like a jackass, essentially.
Which would consequently end the fucking movie. Why in the world does she opt to torture a hero instead of enlisting him to find her sister? Well,
because she perceives him as a threat. This is not complicated stuff. This is like the most basic fucking writing technique in the world. She sees him as a threat. She treats him as a threat, as an obstacle for her goals, because he is in fact an obstacle to her goals. How is this complicated?
well, because her soul is as black as a befouled fucking bin bag. Gina.
How are you this bad at watching movies? The reason is, he's getting in the way of her objectives and works with the enemy. This isn't complicated. This isn't like particularly deep storytelling. It's effective storytelling, but it's not super difficult. It's pretty basic, actually. It's not complicated, buddy.
Eventually decides to mind control Bruce Banner. This leads to the release of the Hulk, the destruction of another building, and the almost death of Spider-Man. Meanwhile, she mind controls the Punisher to break open a security system in the hopes of finally discovering the location of her sister by confronting the director of the DODC. Again, something she could have done day one without harming a single additional person. Spider-Man neutralizes her. She is captured and eventually becomes all-powerful, holding countless innocents hostage.
I feel we're skipping a few steps in this story here, aren't we? She finds out where her sister is. The thing she's trying to figure out, where her sister's located, by hacking the computers, which are more likely to have the answer than a guy. You know, I don't think that's the problem with this whole thing. It's so bizarre. Why are you under the impression the director of an organization will know all the information that the organization has on hand and not the computer systems that he manages? Like, do you think the director of an organization walks in on everyone and says, hey, what are you guys doing, this team? I think working in an office complex for even a few minutes would tell you the heads of the companies don't know what's going on in every single team at every single moment, at every single time, especially how individual project flows are going. They know overhead stuff, but it's not likely that they would know off the top of their head. Now, ultimately, he does know where the sister is. He does know. But Jean wouldn't know that. That's the thing. If you're a teenager, you're not going to know the director was directly accountable for this one person's disappearance. A good example of that, look at ICE right now. The head of ICE does not know where every single apprehended citizen is that they snatch off the streets. Mainly because they shuffle them around. They can't even locate their own prisoners in their databases because they only keep track of it. So, yeah. The computer would be the first. If you're going to hack something to find answers, you hack the computers. You don't hack the people. That's not really reliable information. So it's like very bizarre, and this is what you're harping on, because anyone with a brain can tell you the head of an organization probably isn't the first source of information you want to go to if you want accurate data points. You go to the computers because that's where it's filed, The problem also is that she's looking in the wrong place. She's looking for VMAX when VMAX means nothing. That's why she can't get the information she's looking for. She's looking for the wrong data point. That's the problem. That's the big issue. So the fact that she's going into this film not knowing everything is actually a crucial plot point. She doesn't know everything. That's like the point. It's amazing, despite acting so intelligent, how little you seem to know about the characters you're talking about. Rather, you want to emphasize Jean as this insurmountable evil person, when she is really a character in a story that acts according to her motivations, and acts accordingly to the anger she feels that her sister's been taken. All of this is basic storytelling. It's not particularly complicated, it's just the story.
Hostage, surely killing several more. To then mind...
Here's the problem with all this, Mauler. Where are the bodies? You keep assuming that they're dead. Where are the bodies? You know, like, where are the bodies? Also, something else you pointed out that's wrong, too, I forgot to mention. You said before that the Hulk is transformed by Jean Grey. That's partially true. It's also partially not true. The Professor Hulk persona comes out, but Jean Grey's meddling causes the Savage Hulk to come out as well. That's not intentional, but it does happen. Because one key element of this film is that your actions can have unintended side effects. Like, say, Peter Parker creating a universal inhibitor chip that will be used to suppress mutations in the MCU from here on out. Kind of a big deal. Mauler, you kind of neglected that part, but I digress. What are you going to do?
Control their hand into attacking Spider-Man to the point of having someone stab themselves through the belly just to hurt him. Spider-Man defeats them and reaches Jean, who then threatens to kill the entire city if Peter gets any closer.
No, she threatens to kill the head guy with Glass and all the damage control guys. She can kill the whole city, but she doesn't really... She focuses more on one dude. And again, this is the big thing, too, with Spider-Man in general, with the MCU. Wait a second. Yeah, why the fuck would you think she threatened the entire city? Are you fucking lying about seeing Brand New Day? Oh! That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, why would you think she threatened the entire city? There's one of two things. Either Mauler didn't remember the basics of the film he just watched, which is possible. It's possible. Or he didn't watch the goddamn movie. So what is it, Mauler? Are you lying about seeing the movie you're criticizing, or were you just not paying attention? I think both are good options, considering you've missed some key details of the film discussion so far, but I digress. Let's find out from here whether you're lying or just bad at your job. Let's find out. And mind you, I'm not saying you can't make a mistake. Critics make mistakes all the time, but that's a pretty big mistake, because the scene is focused on three people, right? It's focused on, I keep trying to say Tillman. Well, Metzger. There you go. It's focused on Metzger. It's focused on Peter Parker. And it's focused on Jean Grey. And Jean's got glass shards pressed up against Bill's face. Right? She's gonna, the threat is she's gonna ram the glass shards right in there. She's not gonna kill the entire city. Peter doesn't really focus on the entire city. He focuses just on saving the bad guy, because Peter's all about exercising empathy towards his villains. Across the entirety of the Spider-Man films in the MCU, Peter Parker has only killed one bad guy. And really, the bad guy killed himself, and that was Mysterio. He has gone out of his way to save everyone else, even Green Goblin. He wanted to kill Green Goblin, but he didn't. Ultimately, his ethics prevailed. And that's a key element of his character. His empathy, his understanding, his mercy, his sympathy. So, why Mauler would argue that this is bad in any way is bizarre, considering that's the character we're dealing with here. So, I digress. Oh, he killed Ebony Maw. Well, did he kill Ebony Maw, or was that... He killed a lot of aliens. Actually, when the Russos write Spider-Man, he's more lethal, I digress. But you get the idea. Now, a quick editor's note, as some people have commented, some of Jean's dialogue can suggest she wants to kill more people than just Bill, but that's not clear if it's damage control, the building, all the people at work there, or the kilometer people in her control. However, none of that entails the entire city of New York, so I'm still right in this sense.
Because reasons. Like, Jean Grey in this movie?
Well, her reasons for wanting to kill the director of damage control is because he killed her sister. The reason that you think it's for reasons is because you're saying she wants to do something she didn't actually want to do. It's kind of a big deal. So, chat, what do y'all think? Do you think he's lying about seeing it? Or do you think he's just plain dumb? Obsessed with one
At
detail.
Kanasha37 super chatted $2. He watched it on a Chinese dub bootleg.
Did he now? That wouldn't shock me. That would make a lot of sense. If the Chinese dub bootleg changed lines from it, that'd be really distinct. Was that the one that leaked? Oh man, what a fake. Again, that's the thing too. Like, if you're watching bootlegs that change things from the language, right? And there's translation back and forth, and it's like, amateur hour. The problem becomes that you're not actually engaging with the theater going experience. If, honestly, and I'm being genuine here, if you're a film critic, you should be overjoyed. People are going to the theaters right now because movies aren't exactly doing terrific in financial departments outside of, for the last few years. So, big deal. Hey, there you go. And back to this.
He has all the moral fortitude of a damp fucking ham, and so Peter allows her to explore his mind, meeting his memory of Aunt May. May tells Jean that it is your most important responsibility to remember you are special. You are beautiful, and people love you for you, not because you are special. This reassurance of Jean's beauty and incredible nature convinces her not to end the life of the cruel bastard that tortured her sister to death, despite the hundreds of civilian corpses it took for her to get to this moment.
Again, not exactly an effective understanding of that scene either, Mauler. The whole point of that was to show her a family who loved her because Jean was alone her entire life. In the film proper, Jean and Spider-Man exist as kind of foils to each other. They show where Peter could go if he had nothing to anchor him to reality, to humanity. Jean's powers already push her away from the rest of society. It dehumanizes her. She sees people as pawns, not really as people, because of the nature of her abilities, and also because every interaction with any human being outside of her sister has been purely antagonistic. The scene with Aunt May demonstrates to Jean, hey, this is what it feels like to be loved. This is normal human interaction. And that anchors her to her humanity. This is not me reading too much into the scene. It's what anchors Peter to humanity. And very importantly, this is spelled out during the fight with the hand. Jean tells Peter that he can be a spider or a man, he can't be both. And, his response is basically, I'll do my own thing and be both. And that culminates in his arc. His unified humanity is one core pure thing. He is both man and hero. He is both spider and man. That represents his duties as a hero and his duties as a human being, which he had been neglecting the whole time. And as we see with Punisher, we see another example of a character who is further dehumanized and removed from his humanity. That his being a hero is a sentence rather than necessarily a choice. Anyone with half a brain can watch all of that and go, oh, Jean is where Spidey would go, in theory, if he was totally untethered from his humanity. The scene with Aunt May is that tether that anchors Peter to humanity, even when he's isolated on his own. The memory of Aunt May is his one human tie, even when he's not with MJ, not with Ned, and off on his own, with his only good friend being Jean DeWolf, who I've noticed you've also neglected to even mention so far. The point is that all of these are basic elements of storytelling. They are so basic, in fact, that a child can tell you what they mean. Somehow, though, this escapes the hyper-logical mind of Mauler, who instead decides to frame Jean Grey in the most uncharitable perspective by breaking his own rule. Mauler has always credited himself as someone who anchors his film opinions on what happens in the film. The only person in the entire film who Jean maybe kills is the person she throws in front of a truck. Compare that, though, to the comics version of Jean, who kills 5 billion people because she feeds on a star. And before you go, well, that's Phoenix, that's Dark Phoenix, that's not Jean. Jean and the Phoenix are the same thing. It's not like Venom, where it's like, oh, the symbiote and Eddie, they're two separate entities that come together. No, the Phoenix made Jean, and Jean made the Phoenix. They are one and the same. They are the same entity in the white hot room. They exist beyond space and time as one unified entity with different aspects of themselves floating to the surface. The Dark Phoenix is not a separate person, it is just another aspect of Jean. Jean did that. Jean killed 5 billion people in the comics. By comparison, Jean committed millions of dollars of property damage and maybe killed one person. That is the only death we can account for on screen. Everything else is speculative. And if you speculate, Mauler, that goes against your objective perspective. It is your subjective opinion Jean killed hundreds of people. It is my objective fact that there is no on-screen death in the movie. It is implied people would get blown up and caught up in the damage, but we don't see it. We can assume maybe she did, and that's one discussion. But by your own metrics of film watching, unless we see it explicitly in front of us, it didn't happen. So by your logic, not by my logic, I think she killed more people than that, but by your logic of analysis, you can't say she killed anyone because we didn't actually see any bodies. So, by that metric, Mauler, you're really breaking your own rules more than you're following them. Yeah, she probably killed another person too. I mean, I remember the one person from the truck. There's probably someone else too who's like in a situation where, oh, she probably would die. But a couple of people is not the same as hundreds of people. And especially not the entirety of New York City, which is millions of people. Which Mauler claims is the case when her powers didn't extend beyond a kilometer around an island. Which, by the way, most of that kilometer was in fact water. So, what's she gonna do? Kill the fish? Kill a fairy? Oh, that's like the Joker right there.
At Revenovan 300 super chatted $4.99. Remember, Mauler admitted that if he was in the Dark Knight, he would have instantly blown up one of the boats because not everyone would have died.
Yeah, exactly. He has no touch with his humanity in that sense. The idea of that was that no one wants to, so he was just playing the Joker's games, basically. Yeah, that tracks. That tracks. Anyway, we're only 4 minutes in, and already we've had a lot of issues so far. Hopefully it's not a sign of things to come. We'll see.
At the same time, the Punisher and Spider-Man ensure Jean escapes all forms of justice for the countless innocent people she pointlessly and often enthusiastically tortured and killed, allowing her to live.
Didn't the Punisher try to shoot Jean in the head? Wasn't that a thing that he tried to do? I seem to recall the Punisher firing a gun at Jean from a kilometer plus away. Honestly, that sniper shot is more unrealistic than anything else being done, but you know, whatever. It's the Punisher. Still, it's like she gets away because she decides to stop. The Punisher realizes there's another solution that's non-violent, and he's happy about that. The thing about the Punisher, this whole thing, is he believes that every criminal only has one outcome. You gotta take him off the streets permanently. There's no chance of rehabilitation. Peter Parker proved you can rehabilitate someone, give him a chance at redemption. And that, I think, broke the Punisher's philosophy in this concept for this one moment. Also, the real criminal is damage control because they murdered and tortured an innocent teenage girl. So the idea that the Punisher and Spider-Man both let Jean Grey go, that's a little different. Not sure about that. Also, and this is a really crucial thing, Jean Grey was keeping Peter Parker alive. If the Punisher killed Jean Grey, Spider-Man would have died. It is directly stated that Jean's psychic powers were one of the things keeping Peter Parker alive. If the Punisher killed Jean, Spider-Man would die. That is a crucial element here that you're not considering here. And also, Jean's a teenager. She is a kid, essentially. So what we're saying here is that Mauler thinks they should shoot children. I'm not saying that he's saying that. I'm just saying he's upset that the Punisher didn't do that. Anyway, back to this.
Live her life in peace. Spider-Man Brand New Day is a tangled web of flaming chimp shit. Frank Castle, the Punisher, begins the movie by shooting Spider-Man with a grenade launcher, something that can kill him considering a bullet can. Frank also decides to drop several tons of metal on an innocent civilian 3 times because
no, those are traps. Those are traps that he set so no one can break in. He didn't actively drop them. Those are traps. He also has landmines everywhere. So these are basic things you're getting wrong there, Mauler. If you set a trap, you're not choosing to drop it on a teenage girl. You're choosing to set it up so anyone who steps in it has that fall on them. So he's not up there setting up the wires and metal and dropping it. MJ stepped on the trap, triggered the trap, and it fell. It's meant to show he's paranoid. So, again, did you actually watch this movie? I'm having doubts.
because he is, at this point, akin to a particularly cowardly, brain-vacuumed Mr. Fucking Bean. Frank decides that when battling the Hulk, he will use flashbangs, explosives, guns, and his patented as though he has no idea it would only make the fucking Hulk angrier. Frank then decides he'll go after Jean during this battle, someone who can mind control him at a 33-foot distance, leading, retardedly, to him getting mind controlled. While mind controlled, Jean has him brutally wound two innocent security members trying to protect themselves from Jean and Frank.
Okay. The innocent damage control members. Okay, Molly, you're full of shit if you're saying that those guys are innocent. Okay. Let's take a step back here. We establish here that the Department of Damage Control in the MCU is actively hunting mutants. They are knowingly hunting mutants. They have hunted mutants in Ms. Marvel, in Wonder Man, and now in this. These guys are not innocent. They are actively enacting, they snatch people off the street. Come on. They're not exactly, they're snatching civilians and throwing them in cells, knowingly torturing them to death. At a certain point, what is innocent here? Innocent security guards working on the inner levels of ice. Come on, man. At a certain point, when the evil okay, listen. This is like going, Captain America killed multiple innocent members of Hydra. It's like those innocent Hydra people, they had dental insurance and everything. Okay, now, your perspective of innocent is subjective, obviously, but they're working at the inner levels of an organization that regularly disassembles the means of people who just have powers, captures them, arrests them. They were going to kill Spider-Man when he was getting checked out because he wouldn't take his mask off. They were going to shoot Spider-Man because he didn't take his mask off. The innocent security guards. At a certain point, come on, man. Anyway, back to this. Also, it's the Punisher. and Jean Grey's a terrorist, you know.
At Donkey Monkey super chatted $3.53. Haven't seen the film, but Mauler's opinion feel like someone who half watched the film while playing a game.
It sounds like he didn't actually watch all of it. Or any of it.
At
Or even a
Olivia
few minutes.
_Williams
Give it a summary.
_purple _fairy super chatted $2. Obviously he'd call Ice Analog innocent.
Yeah, he would actually. What am I talking about? He'd be one of the 20% that
At
supports him.
Lupin the Maelstrom super chatted $5. I like to think that Frank didn't know he was shooting Hulk until Peter said so. His reaction after is that of a man realizing he made a huge mistake.
Yeah, he's in deep shit. He did not realize he was going to be in that much deep shit. He just did the only thing he could
At
do.
Eshan especially 04181 super chatted $5. The innocent Gestapo Mauler worried about.
I know, that poor Gestapo guy. The poor guy's enacting a genocide
At
in
Wing of Shoe
Marvel's
super
universe.
chatted $2. Those Hydra agents were 2 weeks from retirement.
Oh man, 2 weeks.
At Lupin the Maelstrom super chatted $2. Frank, what? Thought that was Mr. Hyde or something.
Yeah, the thing also is the Punisher goes to damage control with enough weaponry to defend himself against normal people, not the Hulk. No one expected the Hulk to be there. What's he gonna do realistically? He can't, invent a new weapon on the spot. He has his guns and his flash grenades and bombs, and that's all he's got. He can't do more than that. When Peter says, hey, go take care of Jean, I'll get the Hulk, it's because he can't handle the Hulk and they both know it, and they both decide it's a good idea. Even if you only watch the film on a cursory level, no one knew the Hulk was going to be there but Jean. It's a surprise. It's one of those things, it's like a twist. You see, unlike you, Mauler, when writing this video, and I assume you actually watched the movie and not just, read a summary, even though you're getting a bunch of things wrong, actually. The Punisher did not read ahead in the script and go, yes, in this scene, I'll be fighting the Hulk, so let me bring my anti-Hulk gun. Whatever. Give me a fucking break, man.
Never acknowledges this. Instead, a joke is made at the end of the scene. By the end of the movie, Frank, with the knowledge that Jean is mind-controlling everyone in the city potentially to death and has...
Not everyone. It's 1 kilometer. Also, there is no indication in this film that Jean can just crush someone's heart with their minds. Now, can Jean have them all walk into the water? Sure, but we don't actually know if she can even do that much. She can freeze people within a kilometer, but there's no actual indication that she can actually kill any of them, or even mind control all of them. She can mind control the hand guys, but that's about it. That's kind of the limitation that we see. You're making a lot of assumptions about a lot of stuff we don't really know yet, and that's a big problem.
Previously killed countless innocent people, sees she and Spider-Man are locked in some form of mind battle, providing him the chance to shoot her, ending her reign of psychotic mind-raping murder. Only for Spider-Man to take the bullet, and the Punisher eventually cries and apologizes. He was absolutely right. That spiritually spineless, soggy pillock, absolutely embarrassing and irreconcilable with the man who would have ripped Peter apart for standing in the way of ridding the world of a psychopathic, mass-murdering, mind-raping fiend. Peter Parker, despite having a full view, allows an innocent man to be hit by a car through mind control without pulling him back. Apparently he's distracted. He's a vacant moron, despite the entire event he was focusing on being Jean showing how cruel she can be by getting this innocent man killed. You struggling with your reaction time there, Spider-Man? Speaking of the...
Yes, because they're talking about kidnapping MJ. So yeah, he's distracted. This isn't complicated. It's this is baby shit. This is baby shit, Mauler. How do you not understand the basics of a plot, dude? If you threaten someone's loved one and know... Okay, first off, in that scene also, this is the first time anyone has acknowledged Peter Parker as a person in 4 years. And it's Jean Grey threatening to go after MJ, the person who he loves. All of this catches you kind of off guard. Bit of a big thing. Also, this is after he had the inhibitor chip on him and he's distracted and he's like all disoriented from that too. He's been having effects throughout the whole film where his senses are so intense he's not reacting to things effectively. His powers are on the fritz. That's another key factor at play here. He can't even swing correctly because he can't control his webs properly. So, a lot of this is really pathetic, honestly, of your critique. And it's not even that these are necessarily things you can't critique. I think Gene letting the guy get hit by a car, yeah, pretty extreme, I would say. Pretty bad. Not a morally upstanding thing to do. But it's also the only thing that could be a death. Only thing. There's nothing really else there. We also don't know if she's, we could survive. I don't know. Point is that that's the closest Mauler has come to a meaningful critique, and it's 6.5 minutes in. And I'm not even saying that's a bad critique to make. You can point that out. A lot of people have. That's worth discussing. But it's one thing 6.5 minutes into a video. I don't know. Seems like a bit of a too little, too late kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Also, yeah, the Punisher would feel upset hurting Peter Parker because he likes Peter. You know, he treats Peter almost like a prodigal son kind of thing. It's not like Daredevil where it's another guy. Daredevil also, by the way, in the Daredevil season 2, he also gets in the way of the Punisher's crimes, of Punisher's actions. And the Punisher has a form of respect for Daredevil at some points. He lets him live, for example. But more importantly, Daredevil's disrespectful to Frank. Also, and this is kind of important, the Punisher feels like he owes Peter Parker his life because Peter Parker saved his life in Staten Island. It's a reoccurring joke throughout the whole film. So that's Daredevil hurting someone who... Not Daredevil, I'm sorry, not making up. It's Punisher. It's Punisher hurting someone that he feels he owes a debt to. You know? Because Peter Parker saved the Punisher's life in Staten Island at some point. A reoccurring gag. So... all of this is really bizarre. You know, yeah, the Punisher, historically, has conflicted with Peter in the comics too. And even when Peter gets in the way of his kill, the Punisher respects Peter too much at this point in the comics to just shoot him in the head for the sake of it. You know? And he respects that. That's all really good writing. That's some good stuff. And it's compelling in the moment. Now, is it super comic accurate? Probably not. I think the Punisher's a little more jaded and cruel than that. But it's kind of baffling to see this discussion where you're arguing that the Punisher should have shot this... What are we doing here, man? And again, the real problem is this. Of all the antagonists Spider-Man has faced, Jean is probably the least overtly destructive. I think the Vulture is another contender too. The Vulture is just a career criminal doing a job. If he can avoid killing, he will. Jean takes a little more revelry in property damage and causing harm to those she feels she doesn't like. But compared to Mysterio and Green Goblin, Jean is like... not that bad. Mysterio was going to do a whole, multinational terrorist attack, and Green Goblin almost caused a multi-universal incursion on top of killing his aunt. Yeah, no, there's no comparison here. Peter Parker's not going to have the same wrath he has for them than to Jean, even at any point in the movie, especially after understanding what it was that led to all this to turn out the way it did.
this idiot insect, Peter, when knowing Jean was just in his apartment.
Actually, it's an arachnid. I'm sorry.
Threatening to reach MJ, decides to chase those she jumps through in mind control. He believes he can trap her within them if they are too far from another body to jump into, even though he knows she can exit them at will from having seen it happen twice already. An especially stupid move when he should be making a beeline to MJ or to his own apartment since...
Well, in this sense, we don't actually know that. The problem is, as far as Peter knows, Jean can be in the vicinity of the body she's hopping out of. You know, that's the factor too. At this point, all he knows is the hop takes 33 meters, at maximum. That's its reach. Or 33 feet, whatever. So, no, yeah, 33 feet, I think. No, 33 meters, I think it is. So we don't actually know if Jean can hop back at will, or if she has to be within a certain vicinity of the person first. Peter does not know that because he's never actually seen Jean Grey yet. So your own logic doesn't add up in that sense. He's trying to stop her from body hopping and doesn't actually know if she can just automatically go back at will. Now, we know that from the end of the film, she can do that. But at this point, Peter doesn't know that. And so Peter is operating with... 33 feet. Yeah, thank you. I wasn't sure if it was meters or feet. That makes more sense. Feet makes... Yeah, meters would be a long distance if that were the case. Yeah, there'd be no chance of Punisher being able to fight Jean that way. So 35 feet. 33 feet. We have no idea at this point if Jean Grey needs to be also within 33 feet of her final victim to go back into her head. We don't know that. So that right there is another issue.
He knows he is immune to Jean's mind control and can easily neutralize her. When reaching MJ, he simply assumes she couldn't possibly have been mind controlled in time. He believes everything she says. Again, he's a vacant, spider-flavored watermelon fuck. Peter eventually meets Jean directly.
So here's the thing, too, I have a problem with right now. I'm basically debunking everything you say pretty effectively, very quickly, and it's basic stuff. Saying he's vacant, though, what does that mean? Because he didn't make the decision that you would have him make, and thus knowing where the plot's going to go? With this kind of stuff, you have to ask yourself, how does Peter know the information he's responding to? He knows it through observation. He has never observed, for a fact, Jean being further from 33 feet going back into her own brain. So, as far as he's concerned, he's trapped Jean into this little confined space. For now, at least, MJ's safe. That is his first priority. Stopping the threat from leaping. That is, as far as he knows, the direct solution to the problem. Why would he think Jean is possessed if there's no reason for him to believe Jean can escape the body of someone who is being actively possessed? So that's the big issue here. You're engaging with information that you know because you've seen more of the film, but Peter does not know at this point. It's not complicated to know that the character can only act based on information provided to them at that moment. It's very simple, actually.
Correctly, and fails to web the shit out of her, at least her feet even, like he did to people earlier in the movie, leading to the Hulk sneaking up on Spider-Man.
How would, I'm a little confused here, Mauler. You have to explain it here. How would webbing Jean's feet stop the Hulk from attacking him if the Hulk is already possessed? It makes no damn sense. That's not how it works. The Hulk's already been possessed and has been for a while, so none of that would really do anything. Plus, don't forget, Jean is not physically able to take on Peter. At this point, Jean's telekinetic abilities have not developed yet. All she can do is body swap. So, he does not know that Hulk is there, and, more importantly, his senses are all kerfuffled because of his mutation. He's suppressing the mutant gene. That's one factor. Also, though he knows something's coming because he can spider sense it, that does not always mean that he can respond fast enough, especially not the Hulk. The Hulk moves like a fucking brick house, you know? He moves at he is a wall of force and he's going fast. Spider-Man probably can't outpace the Hulk at this point in time, especially if just caught on his spider senses. Because sometimes Spidey can still get hit by things even if his senses kick in and he kind of moves in some directions with it.
What?
I repeat, the Hulk sneaks up on Spider-Man, as though his footsteps aren't heavier than an Ozempic-deprived Boogie 2988.
I'm in tremendous pain! I'm in tremendous pain! Help me! Help me! Help me!
Peter then decides it's intelligent to have the Punisher deal with Jean.
Well, more than the Hulk. Come on.
Despite the fact that he doesn't want Frank to kill her, as is the Punisher's MO. On top of that, Peter warns of the 33-foot distance he must keep from Jean, as though they aren't...
Didn't we just describe this? This is the same thing we did a few minutes ago. This is the same thing. We covered this like 2 minutes in, right? Like, what are we, 7:54 right now, right? Hang on.
Destruction of another building and the almost death of Spider-Man. Meanwhile, she mind controls the Punisher to break open a security system in the hopes of finally discovering the location of her foot
we just talked about
distance he
this.
must keep from Jean, as though they aren't in an office building replete with corners at every square meter, meaning she could easily mind control Frank and cause mayhem, only for Frank to then be mind controlled, causing...
Yes, how dare the teenager come up with a quick plan on the spot and it not be flawless? How dare I mean, again, Punisher is the tactical guy right there, but he's also overconfident and is just jumping in. This is just babble. Like, yeah, the plan didn't work for those reasons that it doesn't work in the movie. Like, yeah, that's why it didn't work. Wasn't a good plan. It's not a critique, though. That's a built-in feature of the plan. It doesn't go right because the plan doesn't work. That's a key element of plans in movies. People make plans, something falls apart in the plan, they make a new plan as a result. That's a common trope in films because in real life, and this is shocking, I know, sometimes plans don't work. I know, shocking. Also, when you're fighting the Hulk, your mental capacities to survive override common sense and strategy. Because you're fighting the Hulk. These are things a child could tell you, but apparently Mauler explains it as though it's the profound statement of fact.
Mayhem. Everyone is fucking brain dead in this lobotomized toilet soup. Peter is told by the director of the DODC that he remembered being mind controlled. Peter then later realizes through MJ saying she doesn't remember anything before waking up on the street that the director must have been lying, even though Peter should already know that because the guy on the roof said the same shit. In fact, so did Scorpion, so did Bruce, so did Frank. Peter, what are you doing? You
Okay, actually, he didn't. They didn't say that. They actually didn't say that specifically. If you look at what they say in those lines, let's take a look at them because you provided the clips of your bootleg that you provided based on your translation.
Even though Peter should already know that because the guy on the roof said the same.
All those things they said I did, I don't remember doing any of them. Yeah, that's fair, but there's a key element. He's in shock, and time has passed since then. Peter did not commit every single line of dialogue to memory. Do you remember every conversation you've ever had, especially when you're, like, distracted with someone? No, you didn't. That's at the start of the movie. A lot happens between that point and the end of the movie.
Same shit. In fact, so did Scorpion,
The Scorpion seems distracted and confused. From the outside perspective, why would Spider-Man know that? Also in that scene, Spider-Man just heard a cop and is distracted. He's not going to remember all that. In all these instances, he is distracted. Right here, there's no reason for Peter to have even heard Bruce say this, because he's somewhere else in this scene.
So did Bruce. So did Frank.
Frank's not saying that. Frank's like, oh, is that my gun? He seems more disoriented. That does not mean he didn't remember anything. The problem is with the scenes is that you're describing scenes where either a character is distracted by something else and not paying attention to every word said around him, or it's vague enough that you as the audience member afterwards pick up on what's actually being said here and communicated, but in the moment, nothing they're saying actually would say that specific information to someone else. That's it.
Peter, what are you doing? You fucking spider retard. It also makes no sense because MJ clearly realized she was falling as Peter grabbed her, meaning she absolutely did know what was happening before waking up on the street. But on top of that, it...
She does say that. Of course she says she woke up falling. So, like, that's a nonsense point.
doesn't make the DODC director a liar to say that he knows she mind-controlled him, because all the victims know they have lost time, and he knows what her powers are. Peter Parker casually invented an inhibitor.
Mauler, you're fucking No. Okay. No. Mauler, that's not what Bill says in that scene. He says that when he was mind-controlled, she remembered... he brought a memory of something there. He invaded his mind and remembered something while mind-controlled. That's not what you said, Bill said, is not what he said in that scene. Like, dude, you scripted this video. You had time to focus on it. I'm on a live stream. I'm just spouting out what I recall from the film that I saw over a week ago. And, like, I can tell you what you're saying is bullshit. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, this is really ridiculous. You're making a bunch of key errors with what he's even saying here. Like, what are we doing? Jesus Christ. Okay, so he's wrong about that detail. Not the end of the world. He's been wrong about a lot of details, including what characters are saying and doing and how they are acting in the film. But you know what? That's okay. You can get a few things wrong if the core of your argument is sound. What is his core argument so far? Jean is a bad meanie pants. Peter didn't make the best decisions in every scene, and Punisher did not make the best decisions in every scene. That is so far the crux of his argument. That Peter Parker didn't read the script and know Jean's power set exactly before he figured out his power set, which we see him do actively on screen. You know, when you put it like that, it almost sounds like your critiques are pretty superficial. Mind you, he's not really talking about anything with Peter's arc. He's not talking about the character journey Peter undergoes. He's talking purely about the external conflict. And even then is getting some key details wrong, even though he has a bootleg on screen with the footage. You have the bootleg. It's right there. You literally have the footage on hand. Like, what are we doing? You have it. It's right there. You can review the footage when you're writing the script to make sure you're not screwing it up. What are we doing here? Like, he's just wrong. Like, there's a lot of things he got wrong, and it's not like you're going off of memory like I am. I saw the movie more than 7 or 8 days. Oh, no, actually, it was opening weekend, so it was like, a while back. That's about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, about 2 weekends ago. I'm going off memory here, and even I know what you're saying is bullshit. You had the footage on hand to review as you were scripting. You can go back and check it if you wanted. These mistakes are far more egregious when you have the information present. So what are we doing? This is bullshit, man.
that applies to the most powerful mutants, Spider-Man himself, and the fucking Hulk, meaning he just created a universal muzzle to superpowers and provided the design to the Department of Damage Control, i.e. the government. What an absolute, immoral, idiotic, boot-licking fucking lamp, illustrated by his almost complete lack of...
The problem is Peter is trusting. But this is also presented as a mistake. He's so desperate to suppress his own means that he doesn't think. He doesn't doubt the integrity of those around him. He works with the government, and that bites him on the ass. You're describing characters making decisions that are bad decisions because it makes sense for the character to do that at the time, even though we know it's a bad decision. One thing I hate about critics like this, they act like characters making bad choices is a flaw, when it's actually deliberately written that way to show the characters making mistakes. Maybe Mauler just wants characters to say exactly what they need to in any given moment, but that makes for a boring story. A good case study for that is All the Time in the World. Yeah, so again, Mauler's critique here is that the bad decision Peter makes is bad. Yes, that is exact. And by the way, everyone tells him what a bad choice the inhibitor is. MJ does. The Hulk does. Punisher doesn't really do this all that much himself. But it is not subtle that what Peter is doing is a bad idea, and it is derived from an idea to forcibly convert himself to one identity, when the resolution is to accept all aspects of yourself. It's very Persona 4-esque, I think. I've mentioned that a bunch of times in my video about it. But still, right there, getting some details wrong here. A lot wrong.
Of care as that innocent man is splattered, by the way. Pete just moves.
The fact he only has that one clip as proof is reoccurring to show that he has very little actually critique of the movie. And so far, he has only critiqued the internal conflict. That kicks it in about an hour into the film.
The fuck on. Not a care in the world. The guy sees the most blatant mind control with confirmation afterward, and he doesn't tell the police explicitly what he saw, despite several people now likely heading to jail as criminals. Peter's...
Well, he has to be able to prove it. And again, the problem is he's acting as though these are details that are flaws of the film when they're just details, you know? But again, the problem is that he is going back these scenes, giving them more weight in Peter's story. Again, when watching a film, you got to ask yourself a couple questions. One, what does the audience know? And what do the characters know? The characters hear something, but they can't prove anything. Peter can't just go to the police and say, I saw this thing happen. It's very meaningless if he can't validate their concerns with proof. So he goes and investigates and does more homework to find out more answers. He goes to the New Avengers for that. Yeah, so again, all of that is reflective of someone who does not understand what's going on. It's that simple. That simple. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, what are the police going to do? Well, Jean DeWolf he trusts, but he doesn't really... He gives Jean DeWolf evidence for her case. He can't really give her evidence if there's no evidence. Besides, catching Jean kind of exonerates all the people who are being arrested, isn't it?
AI invades every citizen's privacy in order to scan faces and search through private information, completely violating some rather basic laws and ethics. Peter...
Unless you're the cops. The cops do that all the time. Really good documentary. Oh, here's the thing. If you'd be surprised how little privacy you have in your home if you have a camera at your house. You are part of a surveillance state, even if you know it or not. But again, the cops do it, and it's not a crime when they do it. It's the law when they do it. That should terrify you.
Is simply sitting on revolutionary, world-changing technology that could...
Not really. So, in context, the cameras, cops do that in real life today. Not revolutionary. His computers, it's all high-tech stuff they could have dumpster dived for. A fabricator, sewing machine, we have that in real life. The inhibitor chip is the closest we get to it, and that's a modified version of what the Hulk already made. So he's taking technology that Bruce Banner already invented, and he's modifying it to be universal. It's not that he came up with the idea first, he took what someone else did and is building on it. But also, Peter Parker has always been noteworthy as an intelligent person. He's always been an intelligent, smart character. Ergo, yeah, he can make technology that's useful. He made his web shooters out of household chemicals. He's smart at taking things that are on hand and working with it. Don't forget, last film, he made cures for the Sandman, Lizard, Electro, and Green Goblin. So, this version of Peter Parker is very intelligent. It's been established across multiple films that Peter Parker is a smart kind of guy. Spider-Man is a scientist. It's a fact that surprises so many characters, but I digress.
Save countless lives and uses it to spy on people, to take powers from heroes, and to provide this service and capacity to the worst subcategory of the government in the universe. Anyone?
Wait a second. I thought they were innocent. I thought they were innocent though, Mauler, a few seconds ago. Weren't they innocent government guys? The innocent security guys? Now they're the worst people in the world. Someone make this make sense to me. Is Damage Control innocent, or are they the worst people in the world? It seems to me that you can't be consistent in your own video in 10 minutes. It's been 10 minutes and you're already contradicting yourself. How the fuck do you contradict your core arguments 10 minutes in? Anyway.
Remember the Dark Knight?
This is wrong.
The Dark Knight did different technology. The Dark Knight turned the phones into a sonar system. Peter Parker is accessing the cameras that are already built into the city. The Dark Knight turned cell phones unlawfully and without consent into sonar devices. That is dramatically different than what Peter Parker's doing, which is just accessing cameras that are already planted and already hooked up to a network for the police to access. They are nothing alike. And also, you sign off your consent to have your camera be a device for the government already, so.
You can use it.
Spying on 30 million people isn't part of my job description.
Anyone remember Project Insight?
For once, we're way ahead of the curve.
That also had a much different perspective as well, that was involving genetic code and probability and algorithm. Peter Parker is accessing a system that already exists in our current reality. This isn't science fiction, it's science fact. These devices already exist. He's just plugging an algorithm that also already exists into the camera. None of that is sci-fi. That is current day reality. And nothing at all like Project Insight that used genetic code and probability based on massive algorithms of data and is not facial recognition to find a known criminal.
By holding a gun to everyone on Earth and calling it protection. This isn't freedom. This is fear.
Captain America would be disgusted with this scum fuck. Hell,
They use these systems in the film you're talking about. They use facial recognition technology in the Captain America films to track people. They're deliberately trying to find Bucky, and they use facial tracking to find him, ultimately.
Peter Parker would be disgusted with whoever this freak is, considering he gave up that same power in Far From Home the moment it was stumbling on private information.
No, don't look at it.
What private information? Here's the problem, Mauler. You don't seem to understand how this technology works. Having access to a camera is not the same as getting their birth certificate information from a technological hacker. the technology Peter Parker accesses already exists and is being used today. If this scares you, it should. But it's also very real and used actively in crime solving today. It is also wildly inaccurate based on statistics.
Don't look at it, that's wrong.
This penniless, rock-bottom, lonely Spider-Man is all in name only. He is as corporate as they come, living in a huge New York loft, excited to approach each day, collaborating with the police and federal agencies via futuristic tech while FaceTiming the Avengers whenever he wants.
That's what happens in the comics, too. He also has a big loft in New York City in the comics. He dumpster dives in these films. He also talks to the Avengers and Fantastic Four in the comics, too, don't forget. He also has advanced technology that he builds on his own. The web shooters, for one. The spider trackers, for another. The spider car, which he's never used on film. The spider belt with its packs of various technological things. His spider wings, which are also very infrequently used on film. And most importantly, the only technology he's using for the cameras is in fact him just hacking the systems that already exist. It's not complicated.
Raimi Peter Parker was fired from delivering pizzas while selling his photos at diminishing returns, and he was still struggling to make his rent. He was also authentically lonely. He was struggling to grow his social connections. He had barely any technology. Regardless of all that, Peter is a...
Yeah, that one had very little technology, that's true. That's also that version of Peter Parker. Not every version of Peter Parker is written the exact same way. And so by that metric, why would every Peter Parker function exactly the same? Hell, in the comics, he tries to sell his technology. It doesn't work out very well. The lack of job, that's a critique. That is a critique worth having. I had the same critique. How does he make his money? How does he pay for all this? It's also a relatively minor critique because it discusses the functionality of how he gets his tech, but the conflict isn't about the tech, it's about him as a person. And so that's a big factor as well. In fact, with a lot of the stuff he uses to make his equipment, it's fabricators, AI. Unfortunately, AI is now very cheap, and he knows where to find it. You can dumpster dive outside Stark Towers for all I know. Also, don't forget that the Marvel Cinematic Universe exists in a world where technology is more advanced than it is in our reality, and thus far more advanced than it is in the Sam Raimi continuity. Much more advanced. So, comparing the technology and accesses that Peter Parker has in the Raimiverse is ridiculous in a world where Tony Stark, Stark Industries, Wakanda, S.H.I.E.L.D., various space... We've been to space... The Asgardians are here now, with have advanced technology too. Comparing the cheapness of technology in the MCU to the cheapness in the Raimi universe is ridiculous. There's no comparison at all.
A cranially carbonated immoral scumfuck to spare Jean Grey from any and all justice despite being the most wretched, oxygen-thieving murder womble this side of the broken-ass Feigeverse. Personally, I don't
even think that Jean Grey is the most vile character Peter Parker has fought in his own movies. Like, that's the thing. He's so hyperbolic with this. It sounds like someone who doesn't have a good argument, doesn't it? Someone who has to convince you they're right by sounding like an intimidating badass who says the worst, most vile things possible. Meanwhile, it's like, who gives a fuck? It's like, oh, how does he pay for everything? It's like, okay. Yeah, good question. Not answered in the film. Most people don't give a shit. They get over it. And you can say how important that is, but ultimately speaking, what really matters is, does this at all negatively impact the conflict they're trying to tell, which is about a guy who is at war with himself. and have characters who reflect that internal struggle. The external struggle is only meaningful because it reflects the internal struggle that Peter faces in the film. Whether or not Peter can afford a laptop or has to dumpster dive for it is not super relevant to that core conflict. Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good fridge question, but like, it's not a make or break question. It's like, oh, that's a dumb thing they didn't include in the movie. And then you move on with your life because it's not worth getting angry about. It's like, oh, that's kind of stupid. Why didn't you explain that? It's not worth lingering on like this. Yeah. The problem is it's super, super, super ingrained in just what is the relevant thing right here. But no one really gives a fuck about that. They care about, will the guy get out okay? Will they save the day in the end? Will he find happiness? Will he be with MJ? I'll tell you this, in my theater, more people were like emotionally responding to the MJ and Peter scenes than anyone asking, how's he afford that laptop? Because no one cares in the moment. They care about the emotional journey the characters go on.
At Logan Borkowski 335 super chatted $2. MJ calls out how bad the inhibitor is.
Yeah, directly. Yeah, it's a big conversation. It's not the only one he has
At Nick
about it.
Wolf 3885 super chatted $5. Suddenly I remembered a classic Linkara Spider-Man bit. Only a science major could come up with a universal power dampener like this.
Yeah, only a science major. Exactly.
To love listening to Peter insist Jean isn't a killer. After she had a ninja Sudoku himself, she blew...
The hand can survive that. The hand is notoriously hard to kill. That's like a key part of who the hand are. They can take a lot of hits and keep going. Also, that's not a fatal strike. He's stabbed himself in the stomach. Yeah, but it's not stomach. Lower intestine, really. But it's not a fatal hit.
Blew up several buildings, she froze tens of thousands of people, and she walked an innocent old man in front of a car.
Yes, you've said that. Multiple times. It's 12 minutes. You shouldn't have this much padding in your review. You've said this. Get on with it.
You're not a murderer. She just said she killed 3 people. I know, but I'm saying deep down.
This movie even shits all over Yelena, that pitiful photocopy of better times. She discovers, through Spider-Man, that innocent people are being taken by an adjacent yet interwoven Justice Department for observation, experimentation, and other human rights violations related to mind control, and doesn't give a single shit despite that being her core trauma from the Red Room, something that defined the majority of her life, and she passes it off with no less enthusiasm than a constipated gorilla preparing his tax return. 2 sisters are attempting to reach each other despite a greater evil institution keeping them apart involving mind control, and she is simply disinterested. Actually hilarious.
I seem to recall those scenes being a little different there. It's small potatoes for her because she knows he's got it. If she was disinterested entirely and truly, she wouldn't be giving him any information. He gets ahead in the story only because Yelena provides information to him. And while she delegates the tasks to Spider-Man, that does not mean she's not interested. She's providing information to him. It's not really her story. So, in general, and this is difficult for someone, I guess, I don't know if Mauler has much corporate experience or has worked in an organization where there's multiple people who have multiple jobs. Delegation is when you pass off work that is not a big enough topic for you to someone at a lower station in the organization. In this case, Yelena is delegating information to Spider-Man, and then we find out at the end of the film, which you would know if you saw the film and listened to all the dialogue. I know it gets difficult with subtitles there. A couple inches is hard to read sometimes. Yelena is actively investigating damage control and going through all the information that's publicly available from that to find out what else potentially Metzger was doing. So to say she's not interested is actually the complete opposite of what happens in the film, because in reality, Yelena is actively investigating damage control and using Spider-Man as an asset to get that information for herself. And then in the end of the film is presented as accessing and investigating that information. That is directly stated in the film. It is not me implying it. They fucking say it. It's not a subtlety. It's a whole thing they say at the end of the film. You would know this because you have the film on your hard drive and are plugging it in to this footage as we're going along. You have the footage. You know that line is in the movie. You have it. It's right there on your hard drive. And yet somehow you forget these key plot points consistently. Can't imagine why.
Hilarious that they assassinate such a forced and worthless character with just a minute of screen time. The film is packed with flashback imagery of better films on top of scattered stale jokes referencing Lord of the Rings or the fact that scorpions are nocturnal. You get insecure exposition dumps like the detective telling Spider-Man to stop the bad guys from reaching the building. Spider-Man put all the criminals in because the bad guys could end up freeing all the criminals Spider-Man put in the building, and Spider-Man then says, yeah.
This dialogue is shorter than your description of it. You spent more time crying about the dialogue than they had on screen. Strange.
I know. Who do you think put him in there? Or how about the condescending as fuck line? Sometimes Spider-Man has to do the hard thing, even if it breaks Peter Parker's heart. The plot looks like minced confetti after a nice soak in acid. It's just so lucky that Peter bumped into Ned to then see MJ, to then have an existential crisis over the thought of sitting in the cuck chair, causing a biological reaction that facilitates the creation of a universal inhibitor that he happens to end up using to neutralize Jean. The film is over without that random encounter. The film is...
Yeah, it's over without that, because they live in the same city and eventually would bump into each other. I'm not sure if you've ever been in a location, sometimes you just bump into people, especially if you're in like a public area. So, like, what's the point? Like, I don't get what's wrong with these lines. He says, oh, this line is so condescending. I'm like, how? What's wrong with it? The problem is here is that Mauler clearly is bothered by this line. Apparently so. The problem is that when you are writing this kind of line, when you're describing this kind of line and why it's bad, you actually have to explain to your audience what's bad about it. Oh, it's condescending. Well, how is it condescending? What about it so bad? If your audience can be confused, potentially going like, oh, why is the line bad? It just seems like a pretty distinct line illustrating the difference between Peter Parker and Spider-Man, how he sees them as two different identities in his own self. Like, where's the downside of that? Where's the problem? See, the issue here is that you are consistently saying, oh, this is bad, but you're not explaining why it's bad. It's not self-evident. But then again, you over-explain things like, oh, Spider-Man has to put these guys away and it's bad writing. Well, it's a throwaway line. You spent more time complaining about it than they spent saying it. So it's like very stupid thing to get hung up on.
Is also over if Jean doesn't allow Peter to see her face for no reason at all. The film is also over if Frank doesn't happen to have every tool Peter needs to construct a universal inhibitor that can deactivate the Hulk Spider.
The tools are used to make bombs. They're basic stuff. He just has them on hand because he makes bombs with them. The thing is, his tools he's talking about aren't particularly complicated tools either. It's like just craftsman stuff.
Spider-Man and Jean, I enjoy torturing defenseless old women Gray in his dingy fucking basement.
Here's a question. How did she torture the old woman? She just mind controls them. You said yourself that they don't remember anything. So it's not torture. It's just using them as a vessel to move from one place to the next. Not really no torture being done here. So the question is, what is the torture being done here? That's the problem with a lot of this. He's using some strong words, but his own description of the scene contradicts the strong words he's using. Anyway.
The film is also over if MJ didn't happen to know exactly what the inhibitor needed to work where Spider-Man didn't. What the fuck?
Not really. The movie just happens to work on Spider-Man. That doesn't impact anything that would happen with Jean. He'd still be able to use the inhibitor on Jean even if MJ wasn't there, because MJ's advice is specifically only referencing how it would work on Peter Parker, specifically, because his eyelids have electrical interference. So that's actually not relevant at all. You're actually completely wrong about that point. The inhibitor would still work on Jean, despite MJ being there. So, I don't know about that.
Was with the hand in this stupid movie. Daredevil dealt with them only for them to somehow return, then get defeated by Spider-Man off-screen, to then wander around DODC until the director decided they're a group of kids without a leader that just need guidance. What the fuck hallucinogen are you on, you clown bucket, they say.
That's not even a good critique. Bad guys come back. It's an organization. Do you think when you beat an organization that disappears overnight? Like, Daredevil beat the Hand in season 2 of Daredevil. They came back in 2 more shows, Iron Fist and Defenders, because their one plan didn't work. So, what?
Say mechanical and organic webs cannot be used at the same time when Peter could obviously just place them on the other sides of his arms and reprint a suit to facilitate that. Hell, he could just put them further down on the same side. Apparently, Peter's spider sense couldn't detect the beeping countdown of the damn bomb in the tank. Apparently, Peter's AI camera system is more advanced and sentient than anything we have, and yet it can't detect a standard-ass fucking intruder bumbling into his own home. How, if Jean could only control people one at a time in the first 2 acts, was she able to mind control the driver to get her to the bottom of the building, and at the same time mind control MJ at the top of the building? Huh? And on the...
How do you know she did at the same time? A lot of these are really stupid comments. The AI hacked into camera systems outside of in the city, not inside his apartment, which has no security that we can know of. Further, also, there's no evidence that she mind controlled the driver and Zendaya at the same time. It doesn't happen. We don't see that happen. We see her in Zendaya, she leaves Zendaya, and then she's in the car. Doesn't mean she was at the same time. Hell, it doesn't even mean that necessarily there was any divide there. She could have been having like an Uber or something like that, taking it and then taking over the mind control of it. You don't know. The problem is there's a lot of elements here where you're making big assumptions despite no evidence being there. Why does the Hand show back up? Because it's a comic movie. Bad guys show up again for second fights. Happens, All of this is really, really dumb. This is a bad way of criticizing movies because what you're ultimately doing is nitpicking plot points that don't actually matter and acting like they do, but they don't. So who fucking cares? Let's let some super chats play real quick.
At Lupin the Maelstrom super chatted $5. I'm sorry, are we glossing over Mauler trying to gaslight us into thinking Florence Pugh isn't one of the most effortlessly charming actresses today?
If I lingered with all of his stupid comments, we'd be here all day, man. Only
At Revenevin 300 super chatted $4.99. It's so convenient that the spider bite gave Peter powers instead of just getting him sick and killing him. Isn't that just so convenient, everybody?
It's so convenient, guys. It's so dumb. This is such a dumb way of conducting reviews.
At Thinivo3893 super chatted $2. Villain comeback Mauler. Welcome to Comic Book.
Yeah, welcome to Comic Book Stories. This happens all the fucking time. This is all a very sad, pathetic way of conducting a review, by the way. Most of what he's saying is just, oh, hey, isn't it convenient that the plot happened in the way it did so the story can continue? Like, yeah, that's how it was written. Like, what's your fucking point? Again, a plot of convenience is not necessarily a bad plot. A bad plot is one that's poorly told. Having events happen in a sequence in a certain way is not inherently bad. It's just how it happened. Yeah, if the plot didn't happen in the way it did, the movie would be different. These are the most basic ass fucking comments I've ever heard anyone actually say in a film.
Same note, how is MJ mind controlling the guards at the door and everyone she clears in DODC when she can only control one person at a time and she's supposed to be controlling Bruce all the way up the building? It's very funny that Jean thinks it's evidence of the DOD.
Well, how do you know she's supposed to be holding Bruce all the way up in the building? It's not like necessarily she has to be in complete control of Bruce the whole way. All we see is her entering into the building and then walking in. She could just easily have Bruce just outside and then bring him in like that, or have him trapped in some way. None of that is necessarily inherent of any issue or inconsistency. What you're doing is assuming two things are happening at the same time without any evidence to claim those are happening at the same time, and acting as though that assumption you made is a plot hole. That is the problem with your conclusions so far. You're acting as though they are definitely correlative and cohesive as a pattern. This leads to this happens at the same time as this, but you don't know that. You don't know that for sure, and that's the problem.
DC being evil, that they have weapons that can counter Spider-Man. Only she is the proof as to why they not only should, but that it would be moral. Because what if someone like you took control of a hero and turned them into a villain? Oh wait, she literally did that. Why did Metzger tell his shitty lie? As far as the writers were concerned anyway. If he was the one with the most experience experimenting and studying the mind control power and knows how it works more so than anyone else, wouldn't he be notably the best poised to not tell a shitty lie? They tell us the DODC had records of Jean and Sarah Gray. They knew they were both telepaths. They had 'em dead to rights, actively committing mass mind rape in the park, and when they captured Sarah, they could see another girl with her, yelling her name, only to slowly walk away. They do not capture this other.
They don't know necessarily if that is the sister. They don't have records necessarily all at the same time. We only know they had records at some point. There is no evidence saying they had all the records before capturing Sarah. So right there, that's irrelevant. Also, why would they need both sisters? They just want to have the one to experiment on. There's no reason to have both right now, especially if they can get what they want with minimal casualties. Having multiple telepaths in the same place is probably a bad idea. Having one is more manageable. Having two increases the risk of them breaking out and attacking you. So yeah, that is a logical choice, actually. When you say, why didn't you get both of them? You're basically saying, why didn't they bring two powerful telepaths they don't totally understand at this point in the same location at the same time? Wouldn't that potentially increase the risks of being captured in some way? That's the problem right there, isn't it?
The girl. Instead, they scrub her records and behave as though she doesn't exist. Their plan to capture them doesn't make a lick of sense either. You approach as a group in daylight in a populated area and hope she doesn't mind control you guys when she absolutely can. She could have had you all start killing each other. Just trank them both at a distance and wait, you mob.
They did trank her at a distance. Mauler, they tranked her. They show it. They tranked her in the neck. They saw a tranquilizer dart in her neck before approaching her. That is literally what happens in the film. They do tranquilize her. And then they approach as she's being drowsy. Did you even watch the movie? You have the footage of it. Why'd you cut out the part where she's tranked by the gun? You're just wrong. You're just wrong. You're not even like kind of right. You're just wrong. You're describing a scene and leaving out multiple key elements to that scene to make it sound more ridiculous than it really is. And in doing so, you come across as more wrong because you have the footage on hand. Everything you're describing is wrong. By a lot. Jesus Christ. All right. Let's let some super chats play real quick. Jesus Christ.
At Lupin the Maelstrom super chatted $5. It's convenient that Marty McFly just happens to know an eccentric scientist with access to a time machine.
Isn't it convenient?
Weird that hack Zemeckis learn writing.
Isn't it convenient there's a lightning storm at just the right moment?
At Hermanita Rules super chatted $1.99. God, this really is no way to talk about movies.
Yeah, it's so stupid. This is one reason I think it's very frustrating.
At
I believe he
Itsuboy
believes that what he's saying is right,
562 super
even if he's
chatted
wrong.
$1.27. Bro did not just say MINDRAPE, holy shit.
Oh, yeah. No, he did. Oh, absolutely. He doesn't understand the difference between telepathy and mind control and all that.
At Anurin_Hunt super chatted $2.94. Mauler understands emotions like a badly written Vulcan. He approaches charade motivations as what would I do?
Schrader.
Using all knowledge from the movie.
Oh, yeah. I love how, like, every typo gets, like, read out phonetically by the app. Anyway, but yeah, no, exactly. So it's like, this is really stupid. Mauler is deliberately misinterpreting the events of the film to frame it a certain way, despite being the guy who supposedly says you have to objectively watch a film scene by scene by scene. He's ignoring huge chunks of the story, many of which happen seconds before the scene he's describing. Seconds before the damage control guys swarm in, Sarah notices a dart that shoots her neck. When they approach, she's been tranquilized already. You would know that if you watch the movie. I just don't think he paid attention to anything. I think he watched it and it just didn't register to him all these details. Or he was so quick to look for something to make fun of, he didn't take the time to actually engage with the media being presented.
Of dilapidated minge. Oh wait, then the film would be over, so never mind. Jean, for some reason, didn't sabotage Peter's tech when she discovered it in his house, despite him clearly using it to track and stop her. Jean...
Because she doesn't need to. She is not interested in hurting Peter. She's interested in frightening Peter. She just wants him to stop following her and getting in her way. It's a power play. She doesn't have to actually do anything. It's the threat that she could do something that's enough. Jean isn't there to ruin Peter's life. She's there to keep him from interfering with her plans. And that's it.
Entered the DODC building with all the grace of a drunken Godzilla playing mini-golf. Had she done this day one with just a bit more stealth, she would have achieved her goals instantly.
Not really, because the information was on the computer. If she approaches Bill and asks, what's VMAX? And Bill's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. That doesn't really do anything, does it? It kind of defeats the point there. Also, if you're walking into the head of damage control unguarded and they have equipment to fight telepaths and they are aware you are a telepath, she's dead. They know who Jean Grey is. You just admitted they have all the files on hand about Jean Grey. If Jean Grey walked into damage control, they'd recognize her and shoot her on the spot. Or trank her and capture her. So, your own logic falls apart when you consider your own statements. You know they have everything on Jean they need to. So if Jean walked up and can only control one person at a time, doesn't have access to the Hulk, is being quiet and stealthy, in a facility filled with cameras, what do you think's going to happen next? Exactly what happens in the movie. They trank her and knock her down. Because in the movie, it's Bill that tranks her. So, he'd do that on sight. So, what do you mean? Also, it's filled with the hand ninjas. They're just going to kill her that way.
Instead, this way allows her targets to secure themselves, and yet they don't seem to call any police or additional superheroes to protect them from a rogue fucking Hulk and a telepath. But the real problem is the character work. This film has not only stolen the consequences of the film before it, it cannot have any of its own.
I'm sorry, stolen the consequences of the film before? What the fuck does that mean? You mean the events of the previous film impacted what came after it? Almost like a sequential series of films that build upon the other? It's almost like every single Spider-Man film in this franchise has built off what happened previously to tell a cohesive narrative. Stole the consequences, or told a story of events happening in a sequence. Almost like some serialized story of some kind. What do they call those? A series? Nah, it's too silly. It's too ridiculous. A sequel, maybe?
Spider-Man is shot by a grenade launcher and barely feels it. He is...
Hang on a second there, buddy. You have the footage there.
Not only stolen the consequences of the film before it, it cannot have any of its own. Spider-Man is shot by a grenade launcher.
Okay. No, he fucking isn't shot. Your own footage shows the grenade just misses him, and he throws himself out of the way. It's in your footage you show, it misses him. It doesn't quite hit him directly because he's being projected away from the blast zone. If it hit him directly, he'd be pushed forward. It doesn't though, because he's pushed away because it missed. So right there, that proves it right there that it didn't actually fucking hit him. You could, if you're going to say, oh, it hit him, then actually watch the thing you're talking about. That would help a great deal. This just feels careless and sloppy on his part. This review has a ton of issues here. Also, there's no damage to the costume, meaning it's not a direct hit. There's no actual, even if has high endurance, if that hits that fabric, that should leave some scorch marks, but it doesn't because it misses.
And barely feels it. He is told by a police detective that he was seen almost killing a cop and he's allowed to simply leave. He makes incredibly...
Yes. Because she's putting herself on the line to protect him. That's why. That's not really character work problems. That's someone else doing something and it having a ripple effect on the plot itself. That's explicitly shown in the scene.
Retarded decisions in protecting and interfering with MJ, getting her nearly killed over and over again, only for...
No, that's Jean attacking her. He reacts to Jean's threats. It's not... Peter has nothing to do with that. It's just that Jean invades his mind, knows what pressure points to push, and does so. Also, the Punisher has traps that MJ steps in. So, again, this is a really poor read of the movie.
For her to be just fine while providing closure for him. He devises no real plan for dealing with the Hulk and Jean together.
Why would he develop a plan? His plan? What are you talking about? No plan of taking down the Hulk and Jean? What are you talking about? His plan's the inhibitor chip. He just can't get the inhibitor chip on the Hulk. Then the Hulk becomes Savage Hulk. And that complicates matter. You can't really plan around that. But then he improvises a plan by subduing the Hulk, by weighing him down with the collective weight of the building that they're bound around. Again, yeah, Peter does have a plan. He's improvising because he's acting based on new information. He didn't go in knowing the Hulk would be there, so he can't have a plan pre-formed. He's improvising successfully on the spot. Also, the Punisher had no plan. He went in with just guns blazing. He doesn't know the Hulk's there. How can he plan for that? Did you really go into any spot going, oh, the Hulk might be here. I gotta have my anti-Hulk gun on hand. No. Bullshit, man. This is stupid.
Watches the entire battle, failing constantly, only for it to work out entirely. He idiotically leaves his note to...
You're missing a lot of details there, by the way. He bound the Hulk up in heavy debris. The Hulk stops because his humanity is reached out of desperation, and the Hulk lets himself fall as the building crumbles beneath him. Then he uses the inhibitor chip that he was planning on using the whole time on the intended target he started off planning on using it on. It's almost as if he had a plan, the plan went wrong, and then improvised to get to the key point of the plan. It works out because Peter made an equipment designed to stop a threat at that particular moment. So yeah, there is a plan. It didn't work out initially, but it did work out because Peter improvised. It's not complicated. It's actually pretty straightforward.
MJ lying around only for her to find it, and the consequence is getting the closure he sacrificed in the prior movie. He is shot by a sniper through the fucking heart, bleeding out like a stuck pig, only thanks to Jean taking over breathing alongside immensely talented surgeons, he's fine the following day. You have
well, let's be fair. A, Peter has heightened metabolism, helps him recover from injuries. 2, Jean Grey kept him alive. 3, the surgeons helped. He got medical attention, had a psychic holding him together, and has the enhanced genetics of a Spider-Man. Yeah, he got better, not overnight, but in a relatively short period of time. So, like, what's the fault here? that the character was saved and you know why he was saved. Where's the critique? You're just complaining about events from the film now.
Have a hospital's worth of staff and a surgical team working on Spider-Man, and you want me to believe they left his fucking mask on? No self-respecting doctor or surgeon is risking the patient with contamination from a dirty mask during life-saving surgery. Nor...
Wait a second, are you saying you're going to get rid of facial covering around potential contaminants? They cut through the costume, and no one knows who he is because Peter Parker is not a person who anyone remembers. He wakes up without a mask on. The mask's not on there. They did cut through the costume. They said it in the movie. They took off the costume. What's your point? What are you doing? They said it in the film. What are you complaining about? That the things that happened in the film happened, but you want to be smug about it before saying it? Like, what are you talking about, man?
Are they going to obstruct his airway or prevent intubation when he is near death? And so the Punisher, MJ, Metzger, several members of Damage Control, and the General Hospital now know his identity, but the film...
No, they don't. Damage Control doesn't know it. The hospital staff saw it, and because of HIPAA, they can't disclose that information. The patient's Spider-Man. He's not Peter Parker. Peter Parker barely exists. Who's Peter Parker? No one knows who Peter Parker is. He's just a cipher. So what are they going to do? Say, oh, this is some guy. Peter Parker has been wiped from the records. There's nothing recording him. He has no social security number. He has no driver's license. He has nothing. He's been magically erased from time and space. No one knows who he is except for Jean Grey. He doesn't even use his real name when talking to people in the film. Peter Parker doesn't exist. So what are they going to know? He's some kid? That's it. It's no different than, say, in Spider-Man 2 when all those people on the train take off Peter Parker's mask and see what he looks like, or give him his mask back after the mask fell off. It's just a guy. They have no idea who he is. So, and Damage Control didn't see the mask. The hospital staff did. So, there you go.
Film won't agree because we don't do
actually, did he take his mask off?
Peter aids.
Oh, no, actually, okay, so Damage Control would see the face. Yeah, okay, that's fair. Damage Control probably saw the face, but then again, what are they going to connect it to? There's no records of them. They're gone. They've been scrubbed.
Pathic, monstrous wretch with a higher kill count than Jack the fucking Ripper, only for the government to have absolutely no issue.
Oh, actually, where'd the cameras be in that scene? Because Jean Grey destroyed all of them in her psychic rage. So there's no records of what Peter Parker's face looks like. Bill probably saw his face briefly, but that's about it. And he's probably not exactly in the best headspace to remember anything distinctly because he had glass fucking shoved against his face like that.
At all with this, and for the movie to believe this is a wonderfully happy ending. Not only is this an exhaustive sapping of any meaningful consequence, Peter no longer has his own agency, even though this was supposed to be the story where he finally loses all support and guiding authority figures. Peter Parker is bailed out of having sacrificed his life with Ned and MJ by not only giving him closure with MJ, but allowing a farewell, only to then reunite him with Ned. And I'm sorry, folks, but...
Okay, so your argument is there's no emotional closure because he sacrificed his life with MJ, and then lost 4 years of his life that he could have spent with MJ, refused to get involved based on his own self-sacrifice, even though he could have introduced himself to her and realized all of that was for nothing. It was a sacrifice not worth making. And he still is completely disconnected. The consequences are he no longer has a romance with MJ. It's not an easy solution because MJ doesn't know who he is. There's no emotional connection there. It's not really farewell. It's more that his life now has to continue without this huge chunk of his life there. We never get an easy out from that. He's still lost tons of time that he could have spent with MJ. That's all gone now. It's completely erased from his life. And this idea that it's somehow okay, kind of baffling to me. You miss some key elements of the story because you're so quick to say, oh, it doesn't matter, it's all evaporated, that you ignore the consequences that do happen. He does not have the person who loves him loving him back. She's a stranger to him. None of that is gone. The end scene with Ned could be Peter, him remembering, oh, Peter is Spider-Man's name because that's what MJ says. Muscle memory carries him through the handshake. He knows Spider-Man must have known him, at least MJ knew that. And so that's either Ned making a connection that of information he has on hand at that moment or something else. Point is, the consequences of the previous film are still carrying over here. It's not erased, it's just continuing. Having a character go back and try to reintegrate himself into a life that has been moving on beyond him is not a lack of consequences, it's actually reinforcing the consequences by showing how even if you try to go back, there is still lasting impact to your choices. That's presented. That's good storytelling. That's consequence. And, yeah, I don't know what the fuck you're trying to say, though. It's kind of a dumb point, because it's not connected in the reality of the film. It's just you rambling like a dumbass. Anyway, back to this.
At PowerCore 2000 super chatted $5. I can't believe I stole the consequences from myself yesterday. Now Avengers Doomsday is gonna steal the consequences of all MCU movies to SMH.
Basically, how dare Avengers Infinity War have steal the consequences from fucking Thor Ragnarok? And Civil War, too, for that matter. What a stupid way of seeing things.
But Cretin has set it up now. Jean's mind control appears to break Strange's spell on MJ. She...
What? Okay, let's see where we go with this, Mauler. You're not right, but let's see.
returns to the hideout she had with Peter in No Way Home. She holds the Black Dahlia necklace he got her in Far From Home, and she drew Peter in his homecoming outfit. Cretin is collapsing it all. The story takes...
You mean the outfit that Spider-Man publicly wore multiple times for months that everyone knew about? The location that she was hanging out with Ned as well in high school, and the necklace that she had currently? None of that indicates she remembers anything. It just means that A, she has a necklace that was given to her, that she doesn't remember who gave it to her. She went to a place, where she went with her friends repeatedly, that means a lot to her. Peter's not in that memory necessarily. And she's drawing Spider-Man, a person who she now knows, and now knows she has a history with, in a costume he wore in public. How from any of that do you conclude that Jean Grey undid the spell Doctor Strange committed? How does anything about that actually connect to this theory? None of it does. That's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. None of that means anything. You're just making shit up, and you're drawing conclusions based not on objective logic, but on your... Which is pretty funny, considering you're the guy, supposedly, who follows objective information. To objectively criticize a film, you gotta know what it says. Well, nothing in the film expressly says that any of that means the spell is broken. Not a single thing. None of it. None of it even remotely connects to that. You're so completely off base, it's kind of insulting to anyone's intelligence who takes you seriously as a critic. Jesus Christ.
Makes a powerful yet lonely, penniless, desperate man with nothing but a police radio, a sewing machine, and the responsibility to make the world a better place, to then skip him into taking orders from a fucking police detective whenever he isn't taking orders and stripping for a wannabe Avenger blonde hobbit homunculus, and that's whenever he isn't taking orders from the Department of Damage Control. And
do you think Mauler has issues with women, considering how often he keeps saying that she's a blonde homunculus? Every time a woman does something, he acts like it's the worst thing in the world. Like Jean Grey is the worst thing Spidey's ever faced when the Goblin's right there, you know, causing multiversal collapses around her. All of this is just sad. Like, this is a pathetic review, and he's not really saying anything. He's saying the same shit he said 1 minute in. This review is, what are we at, like 20 minutes now? And everything he's saying is a repeat of what he said in the first minute and a half. It doesn't justify its long length because he's just cycling back over and over again, saying some disconnected thing that proves he didn't really remember the movie he's talking about, even though he has footage of it on his hard drive to edit this video with. And he just rambles and rambles and rambles and doesn't actually say anything new.
that's whenever he isn't relying on his fucking AI to explain his own body, to track his enemies, to warn him about his arachnid hormones, or to explain to him that his senses are overloading when you...
3 of those statements are the exact same thing. Tells him his body, his senses are overloading, his hormone levels. Yeah, that's the AI measuring his biometrics. We have stuff like that in real life. He lives in a sci-fi world. You know, none of this is really actually a good point. Yes, how dare the AI tell him how his hormone levels are going? Stupid.
You can clearly see that shit with what we call filmmaking. This AI is absurdly fucking...
Really? How do you want to show hormone levels changing in film? Now, we see the senses overload there too, but a heads-up display is pretty common in science fiction. We've been seeing it constantly in media for years now, especially in the MCU, where that technology's been around for like 20 years now at this point.
Fucking sophisticated, and it breaks down how everything works for Peter while giving him plot updates if he's lost or bored or fucking around because he has...
Mauler, it's the Marvel Universe. There's multiple science fiction bullshits you can lift from. This world's so removed from our real-world technology, and most of what you're describing isn't even that far removed from our real-world technology. This is stuff that Tony Stark was using back 15 years ago in the MCU, back in Avengers Age of Ultron. In correlative time, that's like 15 years ago at this point. So, like, what are we doing here? Like, what's your fucking point? Technology that we know exists in this universe and has existed for several years is being used by characters in this universe? Is that your critique? Like, what?
Has no clue what he's doing. His AI sequences his organic applications. It facilitates the creation of his extremely high-tech suit, and he generates that shit from a hyper 3D fucking printer. Bruce and the AI explain how to construct the inhibitor, while MJ provides the key scientific detail that Peter somehow misses, with Frank then coming in clutch.
What details that? It's considering the electromagnetic surges of his eyepieces. It's not nothing complex. It's not like MJ had to make a new element or something. That happened in like two movies in the MCU, whatever, with Iron Man too. No, she said, "Oh, hey, did you consider the feedback from your eyepieces?" Like, that's it. Not complicated stuff. When you say, "Oh, she figured it out," like that sounds complicated. When you look at what she actually did say, it's kind of basic. None of this matters. This critique doesn't matter. None of this matters. And yeah, he had the fabricator in the previous movie. Yeah, he had the fabricator before, too. He's had the fabricator since, like, the second film. He just had it on hand, you know? Yeah, he's penniless and he has a sewing kit and all that, but he still has... doesn't mean he lost everything. He just had to steal it. It's not his, technically. But that doesn't mean he can't just take it back.
clutch to provide the materials. Frank even has to save Spider-Man from the Hulk. Hell, the Hulk has to save Spider-Man from the Hulk. And somehow, it's MJ that has to prompt Peter's realization on the director's lies. Peter has a shit ton of wealth, AI, tech, and means. There is no
wealth, not necessarily. He lives in a cruddy apartment and has some technology. But wealth, we don't know that.
Financial, social, or civilian-related struggle possible for him in this movie, where he is supposed to finally be...
He has no civilian struggle because he's not living like a civilian. That's the struggle. It's the point of the movie, that he has completely foregone any human contact. His issues in Spider-Man 2 are because he's trying to be more man than Spider. His issues in this film are because he's trying to be more Spider than man. This is so basic, I'm actually stunned that you don't see that.
Alone, broke, and without a single safety net. The Home trilogy was all about Peter going from a bright-eyed, high-schooling, superhero-in-training, inspired yet naive boy to a man. Homecoming presents the difference between using his power to help people because it's the right, thoughtful thing to do, instead of doing it for the reward of status and glory he wants by joining the Avengers. Far From Home challenges his flaws in perception, strength, and experience as contrast to the reputation of Earth's mightiest heroes and whether he can fulfill their role, only to realize that each of those heroes were no less flawed than he. Therefore, he only need contrast his success and failure by his own capacity for it. No Way Home pits every last lesson he has learned against the direst of consequences, straining the deontological versus the consequential. Is a decision still moral in principle if the consequence costs you the ones you love? With the help of others that have faced the same question and words that will stick with him forever, he not only comes through on the hardest challenge, he chooses to leave this life behind in order to protect everyone from their association with him. That sacrifice gives us an isolated, desperate, low-tech, and stripped-down Peter Parker with a powerful goal and an equilibrium due to his experiences. This was the perfect setup for him to enter college, naturally meet new people he eventually has to juggle once again, like Gwen, Harry, or actual MJ. They could introduce Oscorp, Dr. Connors, Black Cat. They could push lesser-known street villains while keeping Peter in control of his agency, showing what he has learned while providing immense pressure, kinda like the movie they bait and switch in the opening minutes of this film, because they weren't interested in telling that story despite John Watts having handed it to them on a platter. You could have explored the notion of isolation despite new connections being made through the insane cast of characters available instead of shoving Ned and Michelle back in and turning Peter...
What does any of this meaningfully say? Nothing. You're wasting time with this bullshit. This is a waste of time. You're describing the previous film's arcs and saying, here's the arcs of the previous films, and here's what I would like them to do instead of what they did. That's pointless. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? They chose to do a story. We have the story that they're responding to, and you're writing a review of the story they wrote. No one gives a fuck in this video that your story would be different than the one they chose. No one cares. The only thing that matters is how this film accomplished the goal it tried to set out, and if it didn't. The fact it didn't do what John Watts wanted to do is irrelevant. John Watts didn't write the script. He didn't direct the film. He stepped away and let someone else take over. When another comic writer takes over a comic run, after another writer who's successful finishes their run, what that previous writer wanted to do is completely worth jack shit. Doesn't fucking matter. None of it means anything. If your critique is, the movie wasn't what I wanted to be before I saw it, that's kind of a bullshit critique. No one, it doesn't matter. Anyone can say that. It's not meaningful, it's not specific, it's not particularly compelling. Now, if you present an alternative as to what you would hope it would be, that's a different story. That's your fan fiction, that's fine. But we're not writing fan fiction. This is a review of a movie. Who cares? Who authentically cares? I certainly don't care. Get to the point.
Into a 5-year stalker because he doesn't understand how memory works. Because apparently, crime has tanked to an unprecedented low off-screen. The Sacrifice from the Home trilogy.
It's not off-screen. It's the opening montage. We see him reduce crime in the city. It's what the montage is for. It's meant to get to the story, though. It's... How can you say it's off-screen and then show the montage where crime is stopped? Oh, Jesus Christ. What a fucking crock of shit. Super chat's coming in. Let's see some more.
At Thinavo3893 super chatted $5. God, imagine watching movie with this guy. Like, have some level suspension of disbelief, for God's sake.
Exactly. Now pause supers again, because I think we just got the one there. Yeah, it's at that point in the night where people stop really setting in super chats. But if you want to send more than welcome to. All right, let's keep going.
She has been undone by providing him excessive funds, technology, and a whole network of support from every law enforcement institution imaginable. He gets...
Jesus Christ. Okay, so, not sure if you know this, Mauler. Jean the Wolf is a character from the comics. In the comics, when Peter has a question, he will go to the Fantastic Four or the Avengers for help. What you're describing is the status of Spider-Man in the 80s in the comic books, and 70s. Your complaint is that Spider-Man is being written like the character from the comics. You're mad that Peter Parker reflects what is written in comics and has been reinforced by comics for, at this point, over 40 years. The death of Jean the Wolf was an 80s storyline, and in that storyline, he communicated frequently with Jean the Wolf, who is in fact a cop. In that time, he would often work with the Fantastic Four and the Avengers, which is just like he's doing right here, only with new technology instead of old, like just going up to their like open window and crawling in. Very, very, very dumb.
Closure and farewells with those he loved on top of reuniting with his best.
It's not really farewells. Why do you keep saying it's farewells? He doesn't say farewell. It's open to having more communication with them. It's a new beginning as opposed to a completely closing of the door.
Friend. Whereas we had him closing off a life he always wanted in order to protect the woman he loved, he now has been pining for Zendaya for near half a decade until breaking that sacrifice, getting involved in their lives, putting her in immense danger, finding out she isn't even the woman he knew anymore, and she simply doesn't love him, obviously, which prevents...
Okay, so that's a weird way of framing it. He bumps into MJ at a party after going to an open door party with Ned. Sure, okay, that's one thing. After 4 years of isolation, he makes a decision that's desperate for interaction with them, is steadfast with his decision to hold himself back from both of them, but still wants it. It's the basic character conflict that you should know since you're such a big critic and movie writer, of course. Characters, and this is established actually in this book right here. Robert McKay's story. McKee. By the way, such a famous critic. They actually parody him in the movie Adaptation, which you probably have seen Adaptation with Nicolas Cage. That one, you've definitely seen Adaptation. You're such a big film fan, and the idea of it is that characters often have two types of things. They have wants and needs. A character wants something, but they need something else. If a character needs something that their wants contradict, that makes meaningful conflict. Peter Parker needs to have his human life, but he wants to stay separate from that to protect those he cares about, even though doing that doesn't actually protect them, as we see in this film. His wants and his needs are causing friction in his life, and that drives the narrative of a story that is compelling and human. Mauler, what you are arguing for is a story that removes the friction of humanity from the characters' interactions. You take what they want, you take what they need, and you act as though they are different things that can never interact and never touch. That is why your film is as poorly written as it is, because you fundamentally fail to understand characters want things, characters need things, and those two things cause conflict that drives human narrative. All you have done so far is point to the characters wanting something, the characters needing something, and crying about it. It is useless fluff of a critique.
Them from being together. This is decidedly less potent, less selfless, and less meaningful than the payoff they've destroyed to facilitate this. Peter incorporates his shadow self in the story. He finds his balance in being Peter Parker and Spider-Man when faced with the idea he has to choose. Something that was previously shown great consequence now exists as a cop-out, allowing him everything he wanted. The fame, celebration, social network, finance, technology, and psychological peace. This functions as shitty DLC for No Way Home that undermines all of the character and thematic work. In addition, this story is more so about redeeming a psychotic monster for no reason than it is a stress test of Peter Parker's principles, of which he fails. Also, to be clear, Jean could have been given a story that even related to the notion of redemption. Please see Faith's story in Buffy. But this film doesn't bother trying. It doesn't even believe she requires redemption. The film doesn't even know she's evil, for fuck's sake. They often use footage from the Home trilogy in this film, as if they are now the ones to make the point of his loss, when that's already been given a strong and clean conclusion.
No, it's meant to remind the audience of the specific instances being referenced, which is basic filmmaking. Again, what's the fucking point here? Now you're just fucking rambling at this point, dude.
Story was ready for the adult trilogy, and by gum are they sure to tell you repeatedly that this is the mature Spider-Man movie, despite having all the hallmarks of an epileptic toddler transcribing a report of his latest nap with crayons and milk.
Do you think someone just saying, like, edgy shit on the internet makes you sound smart? I think he thinks that. I don't know about you, but I think he thinks that saying a lot of edgy stuff makes him sound sophisticated. It just makes him sound like an asshole.
Spider-Man Brand New Day is a bloated, disjointed, nonsensical, disrespectful, chaotic disaster, with a heavy dollop of retard on top. It is stuffed with as-you-know dialogue, plot holes aplenty, as well as constant stretches to facilitate the extremely weak story. All for a rehash of a better executed theme from a better story, while assassinating everyone in the process. Peter Parker is the grand potentate of excessive mongoloides throughout the film, and his agents.
Why do you get to the fucking point? Get to the say something new. All right? We've heard you repeat yourself from the very beginning. You're not saying anything new. You're just repeating yourself in new iterations. Get to the fucking point. If you chopped out half of your nonsense language, you'd probably get to a video that was like maybe like a 5-minute long video. The reason why people make fun of Mauler for making long videos isn't because he makes long videos. It's because they're padded. This is padding. It's padding to fill out the runtime. There's nothing being said here that's valuable. He's supposed to be the pioneer of these long-ass videos, and he's not even fucking good at it.
Is more robbed from him than ever. He takes forever to catch on to the plot. He just watches as an innocent man gets pelted by a car.
If you're playing at home the drinking game of taking a shot every time he mentions this one scene, you have at this point consumed 12 shots of liquor, which means you should go to the hospital. That's not good.
In front of him, he keeps making the wrong decisions because of information he either understands incorrectly or doesn't even have. He makes enormous tactical errors throughout that can easily get people killed, and experiences little to no struggle on the financial, technical, and social levels set in place by the...
Okay, I have to put that pause in there.
At AdhamWasher5320 super chatted $2. It's basically CinemaSins, but longer.
Yo, yeah, no, it's basically self-important, pretentious CinemaSins, exactly. He's not really saying anything of meaning here. He's not saying anything valuable. He's just repeating himself over and over and over and over and over again. Get to the goddamn point, man. Like, if I'm using a half hour to do a video, I'm saying new things every few seconds. Like, I think my next video is a little shorter than this, and I say more in that than this fucking thing.
The prior story. Jean Grey is a cruel monster who escapes all accountability, and the film seems to have no clue this happens. I suppose we can call it the Wanda Syndrome. Jean kills countless innocent people.
You have said this 15 times. Say something new. If you have to copy and paste the same note in your script multiple times, your script isn't good. It's kind of shit, actually. Jesus Christ. Okay. We're almost done.
When having absolutely no reason to, while enjoying the cruelty of torture and sexual assault with no sense of accountability in sight, even ending up sparing the one actual piece of shit that killed her sister. The justification is meant to be her lack of trust in anyone after her sister is abducted by a group of people who are essentially and simply evil by notable contrast to most everyone else. As though we're supposed to believe this event temporarily took her out of character and put her on a path of a fucking serial killer, whereas you would think she would only target those at the higher end of the DODC while giving...
Why? Who kidnapped her sister? It was the DOC. It wasn't the elites. No, fuck them. That's the thing. If you see people who are part of an organization that attack your sister, and that is the people who attack your sister, that's it. You're targeting them. Like, this isn't irrational. An organization kidnapped your sister. You attack the organization. She's not specifically targeting the higher-ups. She's targeting the organization. They're all the same to her. They're all part of the same organization. What are we talking about? Yeah, Jean's a complex character. She's the antagonist. And, very importantly, the film frames Jean as wrong. It's not right for her to do all this destructive stuff. It's not right for her to put people in harm's way. She's the bad guy. But her arc is growing. It's the idea that's recurring in all of Spider-Man media up to this point, that Spider-Man tries to rehabilitate his enemies more than kill them. In all but one key exception, which is Mysterio, Spider-Man has tried to help his enemies improve in all of these films. That is true here. Now, we can make the argument that Jean is a complicated character, that Jean is a character that struggles, does the wrong thing, is a character. That is the narrative. That is how it works. Now, there is ambiguity on whether or not Jean is potentially able to be redeemed. That's a debate. It's more ethical, more complex. But what's important is that the main character believes she can be redeemed. Whether or not she can is subjective. The only thing that matters in the conflict of the narrative is that Peter thinks she can do better. And that drives Peter's actions. That is the only thing that matters in this context. And again, in the X-Men comics, as Dark Phoenix, so basically as herself, because the Dark Phoenix is Jean Grey, she destroys an entire solar system. She detonates a star to feed upon it and kills 5 billion people, and the X-Men still stand by Jean. There is some moral quandary there, but there is a long history with Jean Grey doing morally horrible stuff, and the main characters standing by her anyway. That is a core element of the character being adapted. So, you gotta look at that as well, in context of everything else, and go, okay, here's a character who throughout her entire comic history has done dubious stuff. In every movie she's been in, she's done dubious stuff. You can say she went too far, you can say she didn't, but what matters is the main character believes she can be redeemed. In terms of the plot and how compelling that plot is, that's all that matters.
Her unique insight on the kind of damage she is seen dealing to random innocent people. But no, and it is the notion of her beauty and brilliance that stops her rampage right.
No, it's the concept of being loved by a parental figure. That's what matters. It's the concept. That's the thing I don't understand with this whole thing. I don't think Mauler understands that what stops Jean isn't being told she's beautiful by Aunt May's vision. The memory is Peter's. It's the parental love that anchors her to humanity a little bit. Because her whole thing up to this point was her divorce from humanity, her detachment from humanity. She sees them as like playthings. And this scene kind of reminds her that there is still people who love each other, and that anchors her to some shred of humanity. That is what stops it. And Peter Parker almost sacrificing himself for her. Yeah, telepathy is oh, hey, how's it going? Hey, how's it going, Chuck? No, telepathy is rough. Telepathy is a scary concept. That fucking dehumanizes you. Because you stop seeing people as people, you start seeing them as objects to act upon. That's some scary shit. That's a scary existential concept. Who in chat seen the movie Possessor? Not David Cronenberg, his son. Great movie. It's all about how freaking possession of bodies that are different than your own causes you to stop seeing yourself and other life forms really as independent forms of life. It is dehumanizing on a level that's very fundamental and kind of disturbing, quite honestly. Some good stuff. But movies have explored this concept. The Phoenix Force is Jean. The Phoenix Force is Jean. Jean Grey creates the Phoenix Force. The Phoenix Force creates Jean Grey. It's been kind of like the modern continuity with the comics for a while now. Oh yeah. Yeah, Emma Frost is also sociopathic too. And her arc is about changing too and growing. And I think Emma Frost did just as many bad things in her comic as Jean Grey did, yet we accept that Emma Frost is now a hero. Comics are all about redemption. It's melodrama. It's larger-than-life characters who can do larger-than-life things, and we kind of overlook the worst of it. It's complicated stuff.
Right up to the doorstep of DODC Hitler. Somehow, I am to believe this bails her out, removing any consequences from her heinous actions, despite her having entered the minds of so many innocent people with extreme trauma that she tortured anyway. None of their minds made the difference. No. It was Aunt fucking May. Because I guess she's this universe's therapist, anchor being or something.
Well, mainly because she didn't see it as people. She saw them as tools to use in a moment. She's not really living in a moment. She's seeing them as pawns. And that's kind of, a point. Whereas Peter Parker is willingly allowing Jean in to a vulnerable moment of his. Jean is forcing herself in otherwise, which is treating them as objects to act upon. This is, again, basic storytelling. Basic storytelling.
Regardless, Jean tells Peter that we don't get to have friends and family and those that love us, as some kind of harsh lesson for those with power when, yeah, we don't get to have loved ones because you are killing them all. She is a mind-raping rectal tumor.
No, she doesn't get to have a family because it was taken from her. That's, kind of presented. That's actually more evidence for what I'm saying. Jean exists in a position where she feels completely isolated. She is the end result of what Peter Parker is going through. If Peter Parker is no anchor to humanity, he would become someone like either Jean Grey or the Punisher. Someone who lives for their vengeance. That is the point. She represents what Peter could become if he chose to completely successfully divorce himself from humanity and wallow in pain. That's the thing. Jean's entire thing is that she's in pain. She's not a happy person. She's miserable. That misery drives her to violent action. So, again, it's character writing. You just got to know what the character's written and say, okay, here's what drives them to this point. Here's what makes them act the way they do. And you go from there. It's basic shit. It's not complicated stuff. It's very simple reviewing. And listen, your interpretation of that's one thing. If you think Jean Grey's a horrible villain and you can't stand her, that's your interpretation of the art. That's your perspective, that's fine. But it is not a quality that dictates if the art was successful at its objective.
Rotted gunt cheese. She's a wretchful fucking harridan. She belongs in the depths of the raft until darkness is all she remembers. What wonders she's performed in making the mutant cause sympathetic. Maybe Stryker was right. I didn't even really mention MJ.
It's funny how many of these critics become nothing more than people defending like fucking Trask or Stryker from the X-Men films. It's very interesting. That's the big thing a lot of these discussions in the culture war, whatever that means, keeps bringing up. Maybe the Sentinels were right. Which is, kind of a shitty thing to do. So because one person was not great, you now believe that an entire demographic of people should be genocided. It sounds to me like you were looking for an excuse. Personally, but I digress.
As a character, by the way, despite her heavy screen time. Zendaya plays a moderately frustrated woman who discovers after being mind-controlled into sexually assaulting a stranger that her entire life is a lie. Her previous self was essentially, philosophically speaking, killed, and all she seems to have the drive to explain...
No, not really. Just her memories of Peter. All the events happened in her life. She's just Peter wasn't a part of them. That's it. Like, it's not her whole life's not a lie. She lived all the events. She remembers the events. Just there's no Peter in them. So, like, if you're gonna say these grandiose statements about what happened in the film, you gotta actually get what happened in the film correct.
Is that this guy, her past self was in love with, can't be with her because she currently doesn't love him. As though she's not a character in and of herself, and instead is locked into the thematic Peter Parker arc dialogue when she should probably be having an existential crisis on top of some serious outrage. Like, this whole thing is embarrassing.
No, just remember it. You're acting as though, like, she lost 4 years of her life. All the memories are there. It's just Peter's erased from them. She's someone she doesn't know. So that's it. There's nothing else to it. Yeah, she has regrets and concerns and crises, but it's subdued. What she's doing is, in the only time she talks about it, are the moment when she has that conversation with Peter over the letter. They go home, and then MJ invites him in, and they talk a little bit more. And that kind of shows a new introduction, how she's feeling conflicted about it. But she has no memories of Peter. But she still feels guilt. She still feels regret. She feels bad that she hurt this guy, that she knows saved her life, but she does not know. All of that is presented on screen, and it's not particularly difficult to follow. It's pretty straightforward. But the way he's presenting it, it's as though she doesn't have 4 years, she lost 4 years of her life or something like that. Keep in mind also, this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe where all of them were blipped out of existence for 5 years and had to contend with that trauma as well. I think at this point they're kind of used to extreme situations involving magic outside their control.
Now, let me tell you something. The Punisher is the mooing retard we now all know and are forced to endure, spending the movie being more accidentally ruthless than he's ever consciously allowed to be. He spends so much time blowing up the world that it would be impossible for him to move through and rest in a fucking hospital without being arrested. They could have had him take Peter to Claire,
Mauler.
but oh
Get
no,
to a
that
new
might have made
point.
sense. Frank is a muzzled comic relief puppet in this film. What's frustrating is he has more trauma in one day of his life than Jean could ever understand, only for the movie to have her experience that and make a fucking joke. You can't try to wedge the...
Well, she doesn't experience that. She just sees he has trauma and doesn't actually go into it in detail. Mauler seems to believe that Jean experiences every single thing that person experiences when she goes to her head, in their heads. But it's more like reading a file. It's not like actually experiencing it. It's like computing, yeah, no, he has issues. And then intellectualizing it and moving on. It's like reading a Wikipedia summary. It's not like experiencing it firsthand. And it's like, again, the problem here is that both Jean and Punisher exist as parallels to Peter. They're both endpoints if Peter completely removes himself from humanity. They're both violent people. They're both really killers. Punisher's killed a lot more than Jean, by the way. So why Mauler is so angry at Jean, but not Punisher, despite Punisher on in a single episode of Daredevil killing way more people on screen than Jean ever did, is baffling to me. Again, it's like, yeah, it's trauma scaling. Exactly. It's trauma scaling. It's the idea that, oh, well, you have more trauma than I do, therefore your trauma stops counting. Like, okay. That's not really what it's about, but sure, why not? Some super chats play real quick.
At Wing of Shoe super chatted $2. Insert Monty Python get on with IT scene.
Seriously, get on with it.
At Thrillhouse 3224 super chatted $5. If this is his shorter video, I dread to think what his longer videos are like.
Fucking seriously.
And what the hell is with the unrelated MCU clips?
Filler. That's all it is, just to fill things in.
At Hendicuti super chatted $6.93. My guy having a seizure, someone help him, he rambles more than my demential 85 yo great aunt. Old man yelling at the cloud, as they like to use it.
Seriously, it really is. It's so, like, rambly.
At Babarakis 9583 super chatted $2.94. I really want to tell Mauler what the word concise means, but I think it might break his brain.
I don't think he's ever known a concise script to save his life.
At JanXYZ 2206 super chatted $10. Hard disagree with most of the argumentation against Mauler's video here, but still cool to get a different perspective at least. Got a dash but GL with the rest of the stream, man.
Well, I'm glad you're taking it into accountability. Again, I'm not saying you have to agree with me, but hey, it's cool if you do.
At Eustace Giwo super chatted $5. All this redundancy, did Mauler have AI write his script? Thinking face?
I don't think so. I think he's just aggressive and mad and just like spilling everything in. Now again, here's the thing too about the Punisher. MCU Punisher is not a character I don't critique. There are issues I have with his depiction in media. But there are two ways of looking at it. How well is Punisher adapted from the comics? And how does Punisher play a role in the narrative? That's a complicated way of looking at it. There's two versions. Is he a good adaptation, or is he a good character for the intents of the story? I think this version of the Punisher is not the best adaptation. I think the best one is still, in terms of closeness, would be Warzone's Punisher. I think that's very close to what the comics actually have. But the point is that it completely works with what they're trying to say and do in this film. He's a foil to Peter. He's a counterpoint to Peter. Their philosophies play out in the course of the film. It's that simple. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science. It's basic shit.
The Punisher as some kind of thematic, reflective, cautionary tale in self-imposed isolation for Peter, while also making his PTSD and the entire character Marvel humor. Fuck off. Frank was...
Where's the Marvel humor? Yeah, he's comedic. It's funny. But it's not the point of his trauma. The point of his trauma is shown very seriously when MJ kind of critiques him. And there is that sense... Well, it was MJ or Peter critiques him. I forget which one. But there's a scene in the kitchen in his lair. And he talks about this life being a sentence. That's not his trauma being boiled up into humor. The joke is one gag in one scene, and his deadpan delivery to the absurd stuff around him is where the humor comes in. It's not really Marvel humor, it's just humor, you know? There's some jokes. Well, there's some jokes and gags here and there, combining jokes and gags. Well, you can tell I'm tired. But it's nothing too severe, I don't think.
Was right in the one moment he was given a brain cell. Jean should at least be in prison or simply executed before she can destroy the world on an emotional whim. Instead, everyone enables the fuck out of it.
She can't destroy the world on an emotional whim. That is absurd. She can, at this point, freeze a kilometer when she's emotionally distressed. It's not the world. A kilometer, I don't know if you know this, Mauler, though you are from Britain, so you Wales, so you should know this. A kilometer and the world are not the same size. It's a bit of a difference.
With Frank crying. The lack of Jean Grey's accountability does indeed echo onto Frank and Peter, by the way. Also, the whole VMAX plot was so retarded I'm not even getting into it. Bloody Ventmax, for fuck.
What's wrong with that? It's the last thing her sister saw before dying. And so that telepathic message of the last thing she saw drives Jean's actions. The fact you ignored that despite interpreting Jean's motives and goals is pretty dumb, because you're ignoring what Jean was actually looking for, thinking it was some file name or some location in the computers that you can go and invade. Someone communicating the last thing they saw before dying to a large population, to her sister, that's major. That's good. It's tragic. It's heartbreaking. It's sad. It's only stupid because you expected it to be some big reveal and not a small, painful human one. The thing I'm getting from Mauler right now is that he expects all plots to be these big, grandiose, operatic things, but then hates the operatic when it's emotional and thematic and meaningful. Yeah, the VMAX twist was great. That was a fantastic decision because it illustrated that Jean expected it to be this big, meaningful conspiracy. It was actually a small moment of fear and terror in her sister's last final moments. That is the haunting coldness that makes that scene so effective. It matters if you expect it to be big and it's something small, cruel, but also deeply revealing. It's like Rosebud is the sled, you know? It's not a big secret, it's a small moment of humanity.
Sake. So anyway, the Hand are embarrassingly fucking hilarious. Your ancient order of ninjas seeking immortality, sire. Spawned out of nowhere, working for fucking damage control, wandering around the office like fucking...
The Hand in the comics are also mercenaries. They work with organizations all the time. This is basic shit. The Hand will sometimes be pursuing immortality, and other times a paycheck. That's the comics for you.
Michael Scott, and only to be wiped out in one scene. Malicious disrespect doesn't...
Yeah, they're ninja. They're fighting a superhuman. If Daredevil with no, super strength can take out the Hand, Peter Parker's got them handled.
Even begin to cover it. Even Yelena got assassinated with a minute of screen time. Tombstone is in the story for about 3 seconds as part of a montage, just like Scorpion until he gets hit by a Looney Tunes piano. Only in Scorpion's case, you do see him in one more action scene. A scene where he's mind-controlled by Jean, and therefore not Scorpion. The mind-melted writers do this despite Scorpion having actual history and a grudge with Spider-Man.
None of this is a complaint. It just means you didn't do a thing you wanted to do. It's not a critique of the plot, though. It's just, you wanted to go another way. It didn't go that way. That's not a meaningful critique, especially not over a half hour into your 40-minute long video, where you're repeating the same bullshit again.
And a grudge that's festered for 10 fucking years, and it ends with him getting wily coyoted in a passing month.
No, it doesn't end there. It continues there. It's just a sequence in their ongoing fight. There's no reason the Scorpion can't show up again in the future. That's a pointless thing to say.
Montage, meaning the main villain, along with the Hand, the DODC, Scorpion, and the battle with the Hulk are all entirely disconnected from Peter on a personal level. Either...
Jesus Christ, you're such a fucking... Okay. No, they're not disconnected from Peter on a personal level. All the sequences engage with the core concepts that Peter struggles with. The Scorpion fight is him struggling with his spider and human side and his mutation that causes him to accidentally hurt Peter. Just because there is not a specific emotional tether to Scorpion does not mean the confrontation is disconnected from Peter's struggle. It is an externalization of the internal struggle Peter is going through at that time. The fight with the Hulk also represents that same struggle, with Peter fighting someone else who has struggled to repress their own mutant side and fighting the unrestrained inner id that person has, the most intense version of it. The hand is that fight externalizing the confrontation of balance between both sides. All of these fights, and of course the damage control drives the narrative and is of course also involved with taking what Peter creates to hurt others, using him as a pawn and him realizing he can't exactly trust government organizations. All of these conflicts are external connections to the internal problems Peter fights. Because Peter doesn't have a personal fucking grudge against Scorpion does not mean it's not personal. It just means that you have to actually see what the fight's doing to understand how it connects to Peter's journey. You are a critic who spent a half hour talking about this goddamn movie, and you don't even know how the fights integrate with the internal journey the character undergoes. You are extremely bad at this.
Whether it's Jean who wants the DODC, or it's people she's mind-controlling to facilitate that purpose. Not Spider-Man nor Peter Parker are relevant to these people. They don't want to hurt him. They don't have some fundamental difference in philosophy. They don't want to take his status, his fame, his resources. They don't have a chaotic desire to crush his idealism, forcing him to abandon his heroic nature. They are just, unfortunately, the current obstacles for him to take down. Similarly, the film...
Okay. Sounds like my son's awake too. I think my spouse is with him, which is good. Okay, this is going on for a while. It's going on for so damn long. I am currently at wit's end with this bullshit. Just because a character doesn't actively have a meaningful direct confrontation with the main character does not mean they're not tethered to the emotional journey. John McClane and frickin' Alan Rickman's character in Die Hard don't have emotional beef. They're just, one is a goal, the other's in the other's way, and they fight. It's a conflict because there's some issue there. They both pose a threat to the other, and thus one must be overcome. There's no philosophical differences there, and it's one of the best fights and confrontations in film history. Saying a character needs to have some deep philosophical difference and divide in personality to make a compelling fight in an opposition is irrelevant. That is one way of doing it. It is not the only way of doing it. He just keeps rambling on and on and on and on and on. Jesus Christ.
Never actually has Frank and Peter explore their core philosophical differences defining rehabilitation versus retribution and prevention, other than making a few memes out of it, though that shouldn't be surprising with how HR-friendly and assassinated they both are. I think the film forgot Peter actually cared about Happy. He doesn't even get a mention. Peter...
They don't know each other now, because Happy has no memory of him.
And Frank simply don't give a fuck about Bruce being carted off to a psychiatric hospital as a result
What can they do about it? They have no control over that.
of the authorities having no clue why he snapped, when Peter knows exactly why and how this hero has been mind-controlled and does nothing to help him. Instead, he...
Well, no. He snapped after being mind-controlled. So, the Hulk transformed into Savage Hulk after breaking free of Jean's control. The Hulk transforming was a side effect of Jean's influence, but the Hulk still transformed. Jean didn't do that. That was the Hulk. Jean made it so the Hulk would transform. It's a result of Jean's interference, but the transformation itself is still the Hulk.
He plays with his buddies. His fate is beyond cruel and gross. Bruce Banner, despite being fumbled so hard by this stupid universe, has spent years getting his rage under control, only to be torn out against his will and dropped into a catastrophe. This is like
That's the Hulk. That's the Hulk's character. What's the problem? The Hulk is a character who's a tragedy. Why are you upset that the tragic character is tragic? That's like... the entire point of the character. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Taking a decade-long teetotaler, knocking them out, feeding them alcohol, and then leaving them in the street. Nobody helps him, despite everyone, especially Gene, knowing with Savage Hulk released that his control is near forfeit. He has previously hurt countless innocent people. He's become a pariah. He tried to kill himself. He finally got everything under control. He nearly died saving countless trillions and began to teach. Only for this ginger hag to land him in custody, with a future being abandoned in psychiatric containment. And it's all treated as a fun scene. You get no...
It's not fun, it's a sad bit. It's not funny. Like, what are you fucking talking about? It's the Hulk. The Hulk's entire character is driven by pain and suffering. The Hulk is always a victim of horrible things happening to him. That's the reality of it. It sounds like my son's being taken care of, which is good. I heard my poor kiddo, he was like waking up in his sleep. He does that sometimes, and it sounds like my spouse is with him right now, which is good. Anyway.
O.J. Jonah, despite a...
I'd hate to lose time I could spend with my son listening to this man ramble another second. But hopefully, we only have 4 minutes left. Once this stream ends, I'm just ending it so I can be with my kid and live a life where I know I touch grass and he doesn't.
An obvious avenue for conflict, a way to explore a job for Peter, a source of income, a place to meet new people he would have to stay away from until building more of a connection. It would even provide somewhat an explanation for his increasing means. Oh, and I guess Peter didn't do anything about Wilson Fisk ruining the whole city. Just slept in for those years, I suppose.
You know. He was clearly fighting crime, so he could have done something off screen. We don't know. The point is that it's not relevant to the story being told.
On a character, plot, world, and thematic level, this is an infected dumpster fire stuffed to the brim with stapled, hollow corpses, forced to bounce in the hopes that the audience might think a story is taking place, showing us, truly, that there are no more stories to be told in the MCU. Ultimately, we have abandoned long-developed character journeys, a binding thematic underpinning, through an agency-plotted path in a harsh world with little to spare, and the sacrifice made from Peter Parker providing the entire trilogy thorough and united meaning in exchange for a bargain bin wonky rehash No Way Home.
You've just repeated the same fucking point 15 fucking times. Speed it up, dude. Say something new. Say something interesting. You're so in love with the sound of your own voice that you're just rambling on and on and on. And you're not even saying anything that's even meaningful.
Own DLC and wrinkles on the Spidey suit. To conclude, the Punisher is an assassinated, brain-dead pussy. Spider-Man is a stalking loser with broken principles who can't stand on his own 2 feet. Jean Grey is a barbarian scumfuck sadist that deserves to take up residence in the Earth's core, whether or not the Punisher and Spider-Man sell their souls to defend her. Hey, Disney, little tip. If you want me to sympathize with a torturing, sexual assaulting, sadistic murder hobo, maybe don't make her targets completely innocent people that add nothing to her.
Oh, so hang on a second, Mauler. You went from saying that these guys were the scum of the earth, evil, to completely innocent again. I keep getting whiplash from how quickly you say, "Oh, the poor damage control agents did nothing wrong," to, "Oh, they're the worst thing in the world." Get to the point faster, dude. Seriously.
Goals whatsoever. The Hulk is humiliated again. The Hand are goons for hire waddling about in an office. Yelena is a rancid potato seething in a sauna, desperate as fuck to claw her way to a single fan actually wanting her in any MCU.
Okay, Mauler, you've clearly never spoken to a lesbian in your life if you think that Yelena has no fans.
Project. Scorpion, Ramrod, Boomerang, Tombstone, and Tarantula are nothing more than a key jangle. Jean DeWolf is a superfluous, stapled-on babysitter when Yelena isn't doing the exact same thing, when the DODC isn't doing the exact same thing, when Peter's fucking eye isn't doing the same damn damn thing. MJ and Ned function as annoying timecode.
So, Mauler, you're just repeating the same bullshit you have said multiple times so far. You're not saying anything new. This is, by far, a waste of time. A complete waste of time. He's just saying shit. He's just padding out the last 2 minutes, 3 minutes of the same things he said already, multiple times already. His conclusion, when in school when they say that you should repeat some core points, is that's your conclusion? It's like, it doesn't mean you literally repeat all the same points verbatim again. It's pointless waste of time. Jesus, what a waste, what a stupid video. Alright, what do we got right here? Oh, now he's attacking the people. Okay, let's skip ahead here.
The comics guys, they paid lip service to the games guys. Oh, but they have a suit with wrinkles, guys. Oh, they aren't spamming blue screen now, guys, even though they absolutely are. And all of this somehow means the film is good now. Can we, for once, just skip the hype period? Can we get to where everyone realizes how shit this movie is? And for the people saying we finally don't have Spider-Boy, you are correct, because now we have Corpo Spider-Baby. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing some apologies to John Watts. If there's one thing you can say about him for sure, he's not a cretin. Anyway, fuck this movie, die in a hole. Seeing Jean Grey fans turn into the new Wanda fans and try to handwave.
Oh god, just reading tweets. Is your last minute just you reading fucking tweets? What a loser. Imagine being so petty you take out your last minute of footage on like a bunch of random Twitter users with tiny followings compared to you. Stupid as shit. Anyway, I am done with him. Let's let some super chats play. I'm going to stop recording